The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow alone. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
It is Wednesday edition of Running Points on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hartwig. We're with you till 3 o'clock, talking area and regional sports. And, of course, you, the fans, are more than welcome to chime in. 330-886-0813. That's 330-886-0813. Had an opportunity to do two 16U Class B baseball games last night. One that had tremendous pace and finished the entire game, in which Roth Brothers was beaten by Creekside, thank you, 3-1. And
that was
then
a really good, well-pitched game.
It was, and it was a well-paced game, and kids were doing what they're supposed to do in between the innings to keep things moving along. And the second game, not so much pace, not so much speed, and unfortunately, we had a game that just did not last. The game was over before the 2 hour, or the game that was not over. You had to end the game at 2 hours. The game was not finished, and that was the nightcap of our doubleheader last night. And unfortunately, a lot of things, a lot of variables are going to be coming in now that you have a 2 hour drop dead limit on baseball games at Scene Park this summer. And for me, and I've now been part of 4 games, 2 as a broadcaster, 2 as an umpire, the disturbing thing that I have seen from the players and the coaches, there are way too many teams that are lollygagging on and off the field, and you can't have that. If you're going to have a game that's going to take 2 hours, and by the way, I detest time in a game of baseball. I detest it with every fiber of my being, but I agree with what's going on because of our situation.
Exactly.
I do agree with the 2 hour time limit because, unfortunately, this is the world in which we live in this year. But if you're going to have a 2 hour time limit, you damn sure better tell your kids, get yourself on the field in a very quick time, get yourself off the field in a very quick time, and let's have no more than a minute and a half in between each half inning. It just boggles my mind when people are dilly-dallying around, and then you wonder why your games don't finish. Just saying.
Which is weird because when we talked to Steve Leslie before the season started, and he was saying the average time for an 18U and a 16U game was under 2 hours, and I think we've maybe had 1 or 2 so far in the season that have actually been under 2 hours and gotten done. So I don't know if this season everyone's just kind of laxed a little bit because they didn't have a high school season and they're kind of taking a beat to get into the groove of getting out onto the field on a manly time and everything. But I hope that these teams kind of wake up into gear after a couple of games.
One of the problems that I envision that is happening right now, and we don't need to mention any teams, it's just human nature. when you have a clock attached to anything, it is human nature. If you are ahead by a sizable amount, you want to slow things down. You want to make sure that you essentially take the air out of the ball and give your opponent little to no chance of winning a ball game. That's what makes baseball so special, in that there is no time clock. However, this year, being the year of COVID, we do have a time limit, and we do have teams that once they have a lead, they're going to start to play the baseball version of four corners offense. And I don't know what you can do to prevent that other than just letting everyone know, okay, that we're going to have to be on the honor system. But if you want your games to be 7 innings instead of being dictated by the 2-hour time limit, you got to get on and off the field as fast as possible. And once you get on the field, don't screw around. Get your warm-ups in, and then that's it. Let's start the inning and let's go.
If it's if it's about the kids, then yeah, you should definitely not be using stalling tactics, because you're robbing your own kids and the other team of other at-bats and live at-bats. And we said it out of the office, the game that they decided to call with like 4 minutes left, it doesn't matter. You're still robbing. Kids need the at-bats because they didn't have a high school season. They need these summer at-bats to develop. And that's why they're in Class B, so they can develop. So if you rob kids of extra at-bats, then you're only hurting the athletes, is what you're doing.
Don Pletcher will be joining the show via the YSN hotline at 12:15. He is the manager of the Astro Falcons 18U team. We'll talk to Pletch. We will also have our weekly conversation with Brian Tolnar, who runs Mill Creek. This week on the PGA Tour, it's the RBC Heritage from Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, and we will talk with Brian Tolnar about the course. Oh boy, I did a little investigating. Let's just say that you better be darn good accuracy-wise if you're going to have any chance at winning on this golf course. It is a very, very difficult course, to say the least, and we'll get Brian's opinion not only on the course, but who he thinks has a really good chance at getting a victory at the RBC Heritage at Hilton Head. This should be a fun weekend, and again, it's a who's who field, because this will be the second PGA event. Everyone and their brother, not named Tiger Woods, wants to get in on the action, and once again, we have a who's who field of incredible golfers for this upcoming PGA Tour event.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot like last week, because last week, that course in Texas, it kind of didn't advantage to the long hitters. You had to hit your fairways, you had to be good at getting greens in regulation. So it didn't really matter if you could hit the ball long last week. So it's going to be one of those courses again.
The last time we were here, which was Monday, we were told after the show that Rob Manfred decided to sit back and say, well, I'm going to take back about the 100%. We're going to play baseball this year. I'm not so sure we're going to play this baseball this year. Let me just basically let everyone know what Rob Manfred is doing right now. He's posturing. There is going to be baseball this year. Now, unfortunately, it's not going to be the kind of baseball that anyone wants to see, because the length of games is going to be a little crazy, to say the least. You're not going to have an 80-game season. You're not going to have a 70-game season. You're surely not going to have a regular 162-game season. There's two ways that Rob Manfred could go about this and Major League Baseball. There's either going to be a 52-game season or a 60-game season. I sincerely doubt that Rob Manfred is stupid enough to have a season under 50 games. You cannot have a 50-game season in Major League Baseball. It's impossible to do unless you want to play the teams in your other division 2 times each, which is 1 home and 1 on the road. That would be 10, and then you play your own teams 10 times each, which would make a 50-game season. It doesn't make any sense. So you're either going to have a 52-game season or a 60-game season. With a 60-game season, considering there are going to be about 10 off days, which basically gives the Mother Nature part of this, where you're not 100% sure that it's going to rain or whatever. You got to have at least 10 off days, so 60 games, 70 days. In order to do that and to have the season end on September 27th, which is what the owners want, the season would have to start on July the 20th. That's 70 days from September the 27th. In order to have spring training, you would have to have at least 3, maybe 4 weeks of spring training. Given the 3.5 weeks, somewhere in that vicinity, maybe 3 weeks of spring training. Spring training would start June the 27th. It would end on July the 18th. And to give about 3 or 4 days for the kids outside of America to get their visas all intact and to get into spring training, you'd have to make an announcement for a 60-game season on June the 23rd. Today is the 17th. So in about 6 days, if we're going to have a 60-game season, 6 days, maybe a week, Rob Manfred's going to make the announcement that baseball's back and everyone's going to just be happy, joy with a 60-game season. If it's a 52-game season, again, keep in mind you got to have 10 off days. So to play it 62 days, 52 games, you would have the season start on July the 28th through September 27th. Spring training would be 3 weeks, July the 5th through the 26th, which means 3 or 4 days to give the foreigners some time to get into the country. Rob Manfred would make the announcement on July the 1st. So in the next 1-2 weeks, Rob Manfred's going to make the announcement. Major League Baseball will be back, whether it's 60 games, whether it's 52 games, who knows? But we're going to have baseball. You'll probably have an expanded playoffs because, well, the owners want to have all the playoff money that they can get, and it would please the players because if you have an 18 playoff and say best of 3 for the quarterfinals, best of 5 for the semis, best of 7 for the AL and NLCS, and a best of 7 for the World Series, and you can still be within the end of October, which everyone wants, you can do that. So that's essentially what's going to happen. There is no way, and let me repeat this, there is no way Major League Baseball doesn't play this year. None whatsoever. There's no possible chance that they do not play baseball this year for 2 reasons. Number one, Major League Baseball would look stupid. I mean, they would lose everything if they didn't have a season. And reason number 2, there's way too much money involved, especially if there's the postseason. And they're banking on the fact that there's not going to be a second round of Corona. They're banking on the postseason. There is no way you're not having a baseball season this year.
Remember the fun times when we were so excited that we'd be in spring training right now?
Yeah,
we'd be starting baseball by July 4th.
And that's assuming, of course, that, Major League Baseball were to do the right thing. And as we find out, nobody wants.
They didn't watch Spike Lee's movie.
Yeah, so nobody wants to do the right thing.
So no
apparently
they're do the right thing.
Yeah, they're not a Spike Lee fan. So there it is. And look, I mean, it's as much as I bang on the owners and Manfred for this, the players are culpable on this one as well. You got to bend a little bit. Everyone is culpable in this.
I felt like the last offer that the owners put out was pretty reasonable for the players. It was definitely the best they were going to get, and they still scoffed at it like it was an absolute terrible disgrace and offense to them.
And I understand from their perspective that you want to be able to get your money per game because it's your money. And look, there are players that are convinced that the owners are making money and would make money in a 70-game season. And they have the numbers of the national contract, the local radio, local TV deals to somewhat prove that. Unfortunately, until the owners open their books, the players are only going to have hearsay evidence and not factual evidence. And the owners don't want to open up the books because they don't trust the players. The players don't trust the owners because the owners don't open the books. And here's this vicious circle. And, well, like I said for the last few weeks, there is nothing on the horizon that is going to be saving Major League Baseball.
What's that little? Remember that cartoon dog that would pop up in random cartoons, all droopy, and be like, "Meh, it's a cycle."
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what we got.
yeah, that's
What
it.
we got.
That's it. And I can see the disconnect. I think any fan can see the disconnect between the owners and the players. That they don't trust each other, and the fact remains, you're not going to have a big baseball season. And I've said this: if it's under 60 games, I'm not interested. I mean, I'll watch it, but I'm not going to be intently interested. Now, does that mean if the Indians happen to win the World Series, I'm going to say, oh, this doesn't count? No, I'm not going to do that. It's going to count. It's just not going to be the season that everyone deserves to get.
Now, if the Yankees win, it doesn't count, guys.
330-886-0813. That is the number to call. We'll hear from the Astro manager's skipper, Don Pletcher. He should be coming up momentarily on the YSN hotline. We will hear from Brian Tolnar at 1 o'clock. Didn't mention this mainly because I was unaware of it until after the show on Monday. Congratulations to a really, really good guy who has been the guy in terms of coaching kids and mentoring kids for the last 50 years. And I'm proud to say that he is a friend of mine. Mike Cifaldi was honored on Sunday at Scene Park on opening night, and Mike Cifaldi was given his due for being a mentor, not just in baseball, but in all sports, for the last 50 years. And if there is a person in this area that has been a mainstay in terms of an advocate for the kids and a guy that cares deeply about the kids and the progression of any sport that he is in, it's Mike Cifaldi. He's a great guy. He has done a fantastic job over the last 50 years taking care of kids in B League, whether it be in youth football. He has been an umpire. He's been a coach. He's been a mentor, and he is a really, really good ambassador to youth sports. And I was so glad to see him honored on Sunday night at Scene.
And you said it, 50 years.
50 years.
We've said it before, longevity equals success. And when you can do what you do and do it well for 50 years, and man, hats off to you. I hope that I'm doing what I love to be doing for 50 years.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Since 1970, Mike has been mentoring kids, whether it be on the diamond, on the football field. He's been a coach. He's been a manager. He's been an official. He's been a big part of youth sports for 50 years. I mean, that is a long, long time. And through it all, he's been married for 49 years. He has kids. He now has grandkids. And he's still going strong, deeply involved in Roth Brothers baseball.
Yeah, and it's just, like you said, just a wonderful tip of the hat for him to be honored at Scene Park.
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys that I hope one day will be honored, like Mike was, for his longevity service in serving youth baseball and youth sports in general in the Mahoning Valley. There's a number of guys that are doing the exact same thing, and we're blessed. Like I've said for a long period of time, the baseball-wise, we are certainly blessed with B-League baseball, and the area certainly has had some amazing memories through the years since the formation of Class B baseball, and just the area in general. There's so much to offer with youth sports, and there's so many people behind the scenes, so many adults behind the scenes that have done an amazing job coaching the kids and from a sports aspect, raising the kids in a lot of ways in the right way, and that's commendable.
You got it, and phone call.
All right, let's get to the phone lines real quick. I believe Don Pletcher is on the line. Skip, is this you?
Hey, how you doing, Ron?
I'm doing wonderful, Don. Yourself?
Hey, can't be any better.
Attaboy. All right, this is every Wednesday at 12:15 or thereabouts. We're going to have a B League spotlight, and we figured the first guest should probably be the manager of the best team in B League, at least in the early part of the season, the 18U team, and that would be the Astro Falcons. Don Pletcher is the manager, and he joins us on the YSN hotline. Don, talk a little bit about the preparation for this season and all the hurdles that you guys in not just with the Astro Falcons, but everyone in the B League, all the hurdles that you guys have had to overcome in this coronavirus world we're living in.
Oh, it was totally different. We have our winter workouts. Everything's copacetic and we feel good, and then all of a sudden, whack! It just stops the high school season short and ends all connectivity to the kids as far as seeing them, watching them, interacting, and even being able to practice. Luckily, most kids are driven and working on their own, but as far as us, it's just in a no man's land, just doing group text and talking, and all of a sudden, getting to just step on a field. So it's a different way, but hey, thank God we're outside playing some baseball. That's look at the bright side.
No question about that. But unfortunately, yes, the kids are working out, but there's a big difference between working out and actually having the reps, baseball reps on the field. And I got to imagine with no local baseball, very limited college baseball, and you have to say that because there are some kids that are 18 that had their first year in college, and unfortunately was cut severely short because of COVID-19. How difficult is it for you as a manager to juggle your lineup knowing that everyone really isn't in baseball shape quite yet?
Ron, what we did was we just told all our, we'll talk pitching first. We told all our pitching that, we're going the first week 45 pitch max, so we're going to bring 2-3 pitchers a game. After a week or two, we'll go to 60 pitches, and really you have to be cognizant of kids' arms because that's their future. So, like the other night, we had a great game. Pitcher was cruising 58 pitches, and he wanted to go on, but that's just the way it is. We just took him out, and you put the next guy up. So it just makes us plan different. Every game we bring 2 pitchers and possibly a third, and we plan on using them. And that's actually the way I talk to a lot of college coaches on what they think's best. And I think that's how we're going to do the year. We're just going to go maybe 65, 70 pitch max, and then be off 6 days and plan on 2 pitchers every game.
Dom, you guys did a lot of work to plan this season and put all these protocols in place, and you never really know how good it is until you get things going. So now that we've had a couple of days of Class B baseball under the belt, how do you think everything going the way that everyone kind of expected it to, or are there some unforeseen obstacles?
No, not really. We've been fortunate. We got 17 games in before the season, so we kind of got those hurdles out of the way. We played in a couple tournaments and picked up a lot of exhibition games. So, we're used to the defensive team provides the baseball now, getting used to that no, meeting after the games. I'm not a big meeting guy anyhow, but we kind of got used to trying to spread things out. And, I'll just bring 13 to 14 kids a game now. So, where before I would just, whoever wants to come. So, those hurdles we got out of the way, and it's pretty much, with the exception of have to get used to 2-hour time limit. It hasn't affected us so far. We got to finish both games, but that's really the only thing that I think might affect some things.
Don, you have some kids that I mentioned that are already 1 year into college baseball, and then you have some other kids that are going to be playing college baseball, in the fall. I'm curious, Are those kids managed a little bit differently, being that they also have another league to go to, where maybe the high school kids, they're still going to be in high school and they don't have another league to go to until spring, but these kids that are going into college, they're going to have a lot more on their plate with fall practice and whatnot in a normal world. Do those kids get managed a little bit different?
No, I didn't plan on having any of my college kids, like Don Palali, Andrew Russell. They had plans this summer. Don was going to go up to New England. Andrew was going down south. And, their leagues got canceled, so they needed a place to play. And so we take them in and provide them a place to play. But, no, we treat them like everybody else. I make sure I get with their college coach and to go over anything in particular that they want to do, or if they're looking position-wise, something else. But, they've been our kids for, Andrew's been with me for 4 years, Dawn the second year. So, they kind of, just fit in with everybody else.
On Monday, you guys had a really competitive win over Creekside, 3-2. Probably one of the more competitive Class B games that we've had so far. What was that game like? What did you see from your guys, and how did it feel to kind of get a close and competitive win under your belt?
Well, that felt good. I mean, there's nothing like a good baseball game. It was a great game, great pitching. Nobody, gave a ton of runs away. It went down to the wire. Bottom of the seventh inning, they get a couple guys on, and the only thing it does different with the time limit, they get two guys on, and naturally, you have to call timeout, and you want to bring your team together and talk about it, like, hey, no pressure, here's what we want to do. But with the time limit, we couldn't do that because I felt, that's all we needed to do, call timeout, go out to the mound, and they stopped the game. So you kind of got to have to manage a little different and, just sit on your bucket and tell the kids to fight through instead of getting to relax. So you have to approach it a little different. But, it felt really good. It's much better going down there and win or lose and have a great game. Obviously, you want to win. But, we've said it time and time again, I would much rather have one-run games all the time than get on there and not have a good game on either side.
Don Pletcher, he is the manager of the Astro Falcons. He joins us. So this will be the B-League Spotlight, a portion of our show, and that's every Wednesday from here on out at 12:15. Don, we had someone that was honored on Sunday night over at Scene Park, and Mike Cifaldi, for 50 years of service. Talk a little bit about what Mike has meant to not just to B-League baseball, but to the kids of the Mahoning Valley, both on the diamond, on the football field, and just talk about the 50 years of service that he has had to kids.
I'll sum it up. I got a reporter called in and asked me to give a little talk on Mike, and I said it best. He's one of the guys that I look up to because Mike does it for the right reason. He's in it for the kids. He gets his rewards when players from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, still call and recognize, and that's what I aspire to. I mean, everybody likes winning, but you know what? When you can make an impact on kids, and Mike's made an impact on hundreds of kids, that's what it's all about. I mean, 50 years is unreal. I mean, I got some more to catch. I'm not quite an old man. I'm not old man Fletcher yet. So I look forward to getting my 50th year. But it's just such a honor to look up to Mike because, like I said, he does it. He does everything for the right reason. And Mike's one of the guys that'll call me after a close game, congratulate me, and every year it seems that I happen to lose one to him, and we talk after the game just like we did before the game. It's not about the results; it's about why we're there.
I'm wondering what it was like. The first Class B game this year, you guys got to step on the field, and it was kind of that feeling of this is real, this is going on. You planned it for a while, but when you actually got to play the first game and realize that it was happening, what was that like after going through everything that we went through with COVID?
we had a 5:30 game. I think I was sitting eating breakfast with my uniform on. Just happy to see the kids, come to scene finally. To get a little normal pregame stuff, play the game, and sit out in the parking lot for a little after and enjoy some company and watch the ceremonies for Mike and seeing some other teams. I mean, it finally felt like life's getting a little bit back to normal. I know there's a lot going on, but seeing kids interact with each other and being able to compete, it's sort of like a little piece of the world getting back to normal.
Don Pletcher, he's the manager of the 18U Astro Falcons team. He joins us on the B-League Spotlights every Wednesday from here on out during baseball season on Running Points every Wednesday at 12:15 YSNLive.com. Don, before we let you go, obviously this is a shortened season, only 18 regular season games, and then you have the playoffs, and unfortunately, the NABF World Series will not be happening this year. Because of the lack of the World Series, the regular season and the tournaments are going to have that much more meaning. What do you anticipate in the course of this 2020 campaign? Or is there going to be a lot more livelier baseball knowing that the only championship you're going to be able to get your hands on this year is the league championship?
I think so. I mean, as much as I would like to say, it's not going to make any difference we're playing the same way, I know for a fact that when there's only one thing out there, that's what we're looking to do. I mean, we want to, get a social distance dog pile at the end of the year. There's no denying that. So, you like the NEBF, you like the Palomino, but it is what it is. This is what we have. So, we're going to do our darndest to, have a little fun and hopefully be able to, lift some hardware.
Well, hopefully the season goes without a hitch, and more importantly, and I've said this to a couple of coaches as an umpire, and I said it last night as a broadcaster, and it's kind of weird that I get to do both on the B-League landscape. Get the kids on and off the field as fast as possible because we're playing on a 2-hour time limit, and you don't want to cheat the kids out of anything. That would be my only message, and I know that you're someone that subscribes to that.
Absolutely, Ron. We in our two games we average 1 minute and 35 seconds from the third out till we throw the first pitch next inning. We time that, and we tell the kids we want to move. And I think Scotty Rourke went around some other fields. Some games are 2 minutes, 2 minutes 30 seconds. Those minutes add up. So we stressed let's play ball. Let's keep it rolling.
I wholeheartedly agree. I said 90 seconds, but if you can keep it to under a minute 45, which is normally what the minor leagues do, about a minute and 45 in between innings, and then they're ready to go. If you guys can do under that, I think that you guys can do a 2-hour game in 7 innings.
I wholeheartedly agree, Ron.
Hey, Don, always a pleasure. Best of luck the rest of this season. I know it's going to be an awful lot of fun, and Lord knows you have all kinds of talent on that baseball team.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Hey, and thanks for all you guys do. We really appreciate it. And the kids appreciate it more than anything.
I appreciate it very much. Thanks, Skip.
Take care, everybody.
See ya. Don Pletcher, he is the manager of the Astro Falcons, and he joins us on the B-League Spotlight every Wednesday during baseball season from here on out on YSNLive.com during the Wednesday edition of Running Point.
Yeah, and what's great about it, I mean, we've already had some really great performances out of Class B baseball. We've only had it for 4 days. So these kids have really hit the ground running. I mean, you talk about Monday night, Shane Cato threw 7 innings of one-hit baseball, I think 9 strikeouts, and he only threw 83 pitches through those 7 innings. So we averaged just under 12 pitches an inning. So that was
solid.
You saw a great pitching performance from Logan Kayevac last night for Creekside.
Yeah, and I got the stink eye from Red in the official score because as a baseball broadcaster, and I'll throw this out here, and we'll ask you about this. As a baseball broadcaster, for the longest time when I was doing sandlot ball and early on in my minor league career in independent ball, and I think the first year I was in organized ball. I fell into or subscribed to the theory of you shouldn't be able to say, hey, this guy's pitching a no-hitter. And then I figured out it doesn't matter what I say.
Yeah,
that whole thing goes out the window.
Follow the rules, man.
Yeah, that goes out the window. That's stupid.
I never.
So I said Kayavek has a no-hitter or has not allowed a hit in the first 5 innings. And sure enough, the second I said that, the next pitch, base hit into right field, and I got a stink eye. But I'm sorry, I'm not falling into that superstitious garbage.
Jinx. Yep.
No, that's not. There's no such thing.
I know. There's really not such a thing.
There's no such thing. But I got the stink eye for it.
So many unwritten rules in baseball. That's one of them. And that's the only one that the broadcaster has to adhere to. And you can't even do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is what it is. That's, it's a damn shame. But
I thought a baseball traditionalist that likes the unwritten rules would follow the one unwritten rule for a broadcaster.
If Vince Scully doesn't follow it, I don't need to follow it. And how many times did Vince Scully say, hey, this guy's got a no-hitter through 7 innings? Hey, he's got a no-hitter through 8 innings.
If it was the other team, he'd said it a lot.
Oh, I did say it a lot when Carolina threw a no-hitter against West 10, but it didn't stop the jinx. That right then and there, I was like, this jinx is ridiculous. But no, I'm glad that Pletch brought up the fact that a minute and 40 seconds to go in and out.
His average is
a minute 35. Minute 35, minute 40 seconds in and out, and you're ready to go.
Well,
That's the way it should be.
He times it.
Yeah.
And he's keeping on top of it. And I'm sure his players have like a bar that if you're above this time, you're going to hear it when you get back in the dugout after the next
And you should. Look, I mean, and let me break this down. If you go 2.5 minutes every half inning, 2.5 minutes instead of 1.5 minutes, that's 1 minute per half inning. That's 2 minutes per inning. That's 14 minutes in a 7-inning game that you're saving. And again, when you have a 2-hour time limit, 14 minutes is a eternity. I mean, you can play an inning worth of baseball in 14 minutes. Now, you may not score a lot of runs, but in 14 minutes, you can play an inning of baseball. If you're down by 2 or 3 runs, you can score 2 or 3 runs in a 14-minute inning. So it is imperative. It is so imperative that you have to get on the field and get off the field and get that inning, next half inning started within a minute 45, preferably within a minute and a half, because if you don't, then you're just wasting your own time. And in a 2-hour game, look, 2 hours for 7 innings, that's doable, and that should be done. That's not out of the realm of possibilities. 120 minutes, it constitutes 2 hours. You're essentially looking at a 17-plus minute inning. That's not that big of a deal. I mean, 17 plus minutes, 17 minutes and change per inning. And we already mentioned, if you save a minute from going from 2.5 to 1.5 or 2:35 to 1:35, that's 1 minute per half inning, 2 minutes per inning, 14 minutes per ball game. 14 minutes is almost 1 inning if you have 7 innings in 120 minutes. It's not rocket science, people.
The math is simple, guys.
He
just did it on paper in about 5 minutes.
It's just you have to be able to get on and get off the field as quickly as possible.
And I think these teams will kind of wake up and start to do it because they don't want to have their games ended early either. I mean, the players don't want to have the game end in 6 innings. I mean, I'm sure that they want to play a full game. But like I said, I think that there might be a little bit of a rust factor because they didn't play high school baseball. This is the first baseball they've played in a while. So it might take a week to kind of get them into gear. All the teams getting on and off in a minute and a half.
I would hope. I would hope that that's the reason why. But I sure did see a lot of laziness getting on and getting off the field, and just a lot of slow. Well, I guess we'll start this half inning. No. You got to move. You got to keep it snappy. It just that's the way it is. And in a world in which we have a time limit on baseball, and again, I can't stress this enough. I can't stand time limits on baseball, but I understand the reason why you have a time limit this year, because we're in a COVID-19 world. This is the new normal until we until we finally have the solution, i.e. a vaccine to this whole thing. You're going to have some sacrifices in sports. This is one of the sacrifices. Now, obviously, you're not going to see this type of sacrifice in a major league game. Now, would I like to see a 2.5-hour time limit in a major league game? Part of me, I got to be honest, part of me would be interested to see how many games would be finished in 2.5 hours, but I would be really pissed off if you're only 7 innings in the game and your team is only down by a run, and then 2.5 hours comes out, and then all of a sudden you say game over.
Especially if you're in the top of the 7th, let's say.
Yeah.
You score 3 runs and take the lead, but they don't get the bottom of the 7th in.
Oh, yeah.
Score reverts to the end of the 6th inning, and you don't win.
No, actually, it wouldn't.
Right?
It wouldn't. In this case, I don't think it would. Now, that you bring up a really interesting point, though, because if you don't finish an inning, one can argue, wait a second, I didn't finish this whole inning, so we got to revert back to the top or back to when the inning started, and this team was down by 3 runs.
I mean, that's how it happens if, like, the game gets delayed or postponed,
sure,
or canceled after a half inning. You revert back to the last full inning,
and that's what it should be. This is yet another thing where it's a little confusing. But, I mean, it's unfortunate but it's a reality that everyone is facing. But there should be no excuse why you can't play 7 sandlot innings. There's a big difference between the sandlot innings in minor league baseball and major league baseball. You don't have, to my knowledge, yes, we're doing games on YSN. I have yet to see a commercials that lasted over 1.5 minutes. So, even if we have the longest spot set that we have, which isn't approaching 1.5 minutes, you should still have plenty of time to get in, get out, and you're only doing one of those spot sets. I only did one last night, and it was like guys were barely into their warm-up tosses. I'm like, wait a second. Come on, people. Let's go. Pick it up. You got to pick it up. Otherwise, you're just doing yourself a disservice. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but gosh darn it, you got to realize this point. Ay. All right, 330-886-0813. That is the number to call. Coming up at 1 o'clock, we will be chatting with Brian Tolnar from Mill Creek and the RBC Heritage over at Hilton Head, South Carolina. And yet again, another who's who of PGA golfers in this event. It's cool, now that we have the PGA back, the first few events, everyone and their brother wants to get involved in this, not named Tiger Woods. And you've got the best of the best. Boy, it was really fun to watch it at Fort Worth last weekend at the Charles Schwab Invitational. And now we have the RBC Heritage. Should be more of the same this weekend.
And the ratings for that Charles Schwab Invitation, I had to think for a minute. The ratings for the Charles Schwab last weekend were through the roof, especially for golf. When you look at golf ratings and what they usually are. People are excited to watch anything. They'll even watch golf. So golf is taking full advantage, and so is CBS of sports being back.
Yeah, and it was cool to see Jim Nantz on the course, right, and Sir Nick Faldo in his home, and they were both broadcasting this. And Sir Nick he's considered old, so he's not allowed to partake in anything right now, which is kind of weird, but whatever. And I'll be honest,
That might have been his choice.
It could have been his choice, but I'll be honest. I'm a Jim Nantz fan, and anytime Jim Nantz goes on the air and says "Hello, friends," yeah, all right, we're set. We know a sporting event is coming up, so it was really cool to hear Jim Nantz say "Hello, friends," and it was especially cool to get Jason Kokrak some national time.
Oh.
And when you're on the leaderboard, you get a little bit of national time.
So close, Jason.
He really was. And we'll talk with Brian about that because that was, man, that was tough. It was. There were so many moments where you know that if he would have hit this par putt or knocked this birdie in.
The 18th hole, I mean, it rimmed out.
Yeah, it just, there were so many opportunities looking back on it that Jason should have won last weekend, or at the very least, been in the playoffs last weekend. Unfortunately, it didn't come to fruition, so it is what it is. Hey, today is National Mascot Day. National Mascot Day is today. So we wanted you, the fans, to chime in on your favorite mascot. It could be, you get the yellow jacket.
Buzz.
Yeah.
My boy Buzz.
Yeah, you get the, now is he one of those angry murder fiend yellow jackets?
Only when we're playing Georgia.
Only, there you go. Well played, sir, well played. I have two, and it's more of a national thing than anything else. I mean, the Philly Fanatic
He's cool.
belongs to the Philadelphia Phillies, but let's be honest, he's more of a national product now. And the Fanatic is he's pretty good at tweaking people. I remember him tweaking Tommy Lasorda many years ago when he was a Dodger manager.
I'm going to be careful with that word because I've had some bad moments on YSN.
Yes. You say twert instead of tweak, and there's a big difference between the two, as Anthony has found out. The other mascot that, and again, I grew up, child of the 70s, baby of the 60s, child of the 70s, young adult of the 80s. I grew up watching the San Diego Chicken. Now, unfortunately, I've also met the man who portrayed the San Diego Chicken, and he's the San Diego Chicken. But very, very cool. Just how the chicken was able to make a lot of people laugh. My only beef with the chicken, in his later years, he did basically the same thing every time you saw him. And I think I saw him 5 times in my minor league stint, 5 times in like 8 years. And every time I saw him, it was the same thing. But it was hilarious. I mean, he would coach first base, and he would have posters that he would use, the visual humor. He would have kids dressed up as chiclets, and he would have them follow him around doing some weird things. He would shine the shoes of the umpire and expect money, and when the umpire to give him any money, he would kick dirt onto the shoes, and then the umpire would fictitiously throw him out of the game, and then the chicken would be on his knees praying that he can stay back in the game. I mean, he was hilarious. He was absolutely hilarious. And one of my favorites was using the character of Barney, but he didn't look like Barney, but everyone knew he was Barney. And Barney and he would wind up getting in a dance-off, and the chicken would do his stuff, Barney would do his stuff, and Barney would basically show him up, and the chicken would pretend to like him, and then they would be arm in arm walking off the field, and then when they get to the first or the third base dugout, the chicken would clothesline him over the railing of the dugout, and everyone would go ballistic. And it was cool. It was a great act.
We need mascot antics like that to make a comeback, because that's the kind of thing baseball needs. I mean, that would make baseball popular if stuff like that was on TV. You know, you pan over and the Philly Fanatic is, you know, bothering the opposing team's first base coach or something like that. You know, those stuff, the antics like that bring back the younger fans.
Pirate Parrot was pretty cool. Slider with the Indians, he's lovable, but he doesn't do much of anything. He just hangs around and walks around and doesn't really do anything controversial per se. He's just there to. I don't even know what he looks like. It's just a furry animal, and there you go. We had a couple of mascots in West 10. Now, the West 10 Diamond Jacks, you had a miner with a pickaxe for a baseball bat, and you had the pick on the sweet spot of the bat. Mm-hmm. Well, you got to see this bearded miner who has this long mustache, and he doesn't look fan or kid friendly.
No.
So you can picture this mascot walking around, and the kids are scared of him. So that's not something that you want. So we had a bear type of mascot, a furry bear type of mascot, and we named him Rippy. And he was bouncing around, and he was a lot more friendly, kid friendly, as we slowly sent the miner packing and let Ribby be our mascot. But I mean, you if you're a mascot, first and foremost, you can't scare the shit out of any kid. you gotta be able to be kid friendly in order to be a lovable mascot.
And then you can't pull a Mr. Met and flip off the crowd either.
No, this is true.
A couple years ago.
Yeah, this is true. You can't do anything like that either.
Mr. Met was cool. I mean, something about just a big baseball head. It makes total sense for a baseball mascot. I mean, it's simple. It's simple. I like who is the Philly? No, the Reds with the big mustache.
Yeah, the Reds mascot had the big mustache.
Yeah,
absolutely. The one rule that you have to have is you're in costume and you're in character once you're in costume. I mean, the worst thing in the world is to have the mascot not be in character and essentially start a fight with another mascot where they're pulling each other's head off, and now you have the illusion out of the way, and that I've seen that a couple of times where a mascot has a problem. The character inside the mascot, the person inside the character of the mascot, has a problem with the other person, and they just start going at it. I've seen a couple of mascots fight during the portion of a game, and if the game is boring, Howard Cosell comes out and announces the fight between the two mascots. Doesn't happen very often, though.
There's some also that are just iconic, like the Oregon Duck is in all the commercials, and he's probably one of the more famous mascots in college football.
Brutus Buckeye.
Yeah, Brutus.
Brutus is he's he's a lovable kind of character.
I've always liked the Michigan State Spartan.
Yeah, Sparty looks cool. Yeah, that's a really good character. The Miami Hurricanes, the Duck.
Well, it's not a. I always look this bird up. It looks like a duck, but it's supposed to be a certain bird whose name escapes me that sticks around during hurricanes when a place gets hit by a hurricane. This bird is known for sticking around and being like the first bird that comes back. It looks like a duck. Hurricane. Yeah, the mascot looks like a duck. You look at the bird like itself; it's got like a long bill.
Yeah, is it a pelican?
No, it's like a. I forget. I'll look it up on the commercial break, and I'll get back to
All right, there you go.
But yeah, it's technically not a duck, but it's
all right.
It's a duck. Come on, Miami. What are you doing?
One of my favorite mascots.
You gotta love the live mascots.
Notre Dame.
Mike the Tiger.
Yeah, Mike the Tiger. Absolutely, Notre Dame has their mascot, live mascot. One of my favorite mascots comes from the Southern League. Surprise, the Montgomery Biscuits, and you have this mascot. And I swear to you, this mascot has a pad of butter for a tongue. Opens its mouth, and you see a pad of butter instead of a tongue. It is one of the coolest looking mascots I have ever seen in my life. And it's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Someone asked me, and this was when we would not have all of our games broadcast, and they said, you'd make a terrific guy to be a guy to wear a uniform. Thank God the gods blessed me with a very large dome because, again, nothing can fit this head. So I have used this to make sure that I don't have any mascot. I'm not going to be a mascot.
I feel like Sparty's head would fit on you.
No.
Because that's a big head.
It is, but you'd be surprised how small
the hole is.
And everything. You'd have to have like I said, you'd have to have a pretty damn large size hole to fit this dome.
You could probably be Western Kentucky's mascot because it doesn't have a headpiece. It's just a big red blob. So there's no, it's a suit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you might be able to be.
You get me sunburned, and I can be a big red blob.
Go be Big Red. I think his name's Big Red.
There you go.
So,
hey, locally, we got to shout out the Hubbard Eagle. I think Hubbard Eagle is locally one of the best mascots we got.
Absolutely.
Pete the Penguin is up there as well.
Pete's good. But no one does it in high school like the Hubbard Eagle.
Yeah, the Hubbard Eagle is it's pretty cool. He or she, whoever it is, the character inside
I love
the
that
character.
too because you have no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
The animosity does a great job. You know, a high schooler, you might be tempted to be like, yeah, I'm the Hubbard Eagle, but no, it's the code of silence.
Absolutely, and whoever does Pete the Penguin, they do a fantastic job as well. We get some pretty cool mascots in the area, but today is Mascot Day. We wanted to bring up to attention some mascots that we have loved in our watching the sports for many, many years. In your case, a few years.
Shout out to the Royals. They have a mascot that actually makes sense. It's a king of the jungle. It's a lion, not a big pink monster that. All these mascots that like the Titans have a raccoon for the Tennessee Titans.
I don't get that one
because their state animal is a raccoon.
I can understand why the state animal's a raccoon in Tennessee.
But it's like
you see a ton of them on I-40, but that's neither here nor there.
And the Chiefs have a wolf. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, no, that's kind of
Dances with Wolves.
Yeah,
I
that's
guess.
kind of. You can make an argument that the wolf is every bit as part of the Native American heritage. So I can understand that because you got to be PC because you're not going to have a full Indian in headdress.
And the Chiefs still do the horse running out named War Paint with the girl that comes out in the feather laced area like Florida State does.
Yes.
And we do the chop like Florida State does. So
yeah, you've ripped a lot of things off of Florida
State. Florida State might have ripped it off of us. Who knows?
I think the institutions have been around a little bit longer than the Kansas City.
Georgia ripped off Green Bay. So.
Possibly.
So I think
that's it. You might have a case there.
I mean, they say they don't because I think Georgia's G is a little bit squeezed down more than Green Bay's.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more.
It's kind of like McDowell's instead of McDonald's. Let's be honest.
Ripped off their fight song, ripped off their logo.
Yeah.
So.
McDowell's has the Big Mick. McDonald's has the Big Mac.
Right.
If you want some. Coming to America quotes, I have them. I just can't say them on the air because we have a PG audience.
I'll give Georgia props. So I think Bulldogs are hard to, but their mascot's kind of original.
Ugga.
Not that it's their living mascot, but their actual.
Oh yeah.
Guy in a suit. It's a cool bulldog for how ununique Bulldog is. It's hard to kind of put your own twist to it, but they give him the spike collar, and he looks kind of cool. So
yeah, well, I prefer the live mascot. Ugga's pretty cool.
I think they're on Ugga 10, which is impressive.
Yeah,
impressive to go that long and only have 10 dogs.
Yeah, because bulldogs don't normally live all that long.
Did you see a couple years ago when the Longhorn from Texas charged him?
Oh yeah, yeah. Ugga stood his ground. He said, "Come on." You're not gonna mess with me. Bring it, Sonny. Yeah, that fired everyone up in Georgia. All right, we're gonna take a timeout. On the other side, we will hear from Brian Tolnar. He runs the Mill Creek Golf Course. We will talk about the upcoming PGA Tournament event, the RBC Heritage at Hilton Head, South Carolina. Who is expected to win? Well, we'll get Brian's opinion on that. We'll also get his opinion on the golf course. That's all coming up in a bit. You're listening to a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com.
21
Good evening,
News.
and thank you for joining us.
Let's get right to our top
More
story
experienced reporters
A new Wilmington
At
restaurant.
GM Lordstown,
telling more local stories
We'll look at
baby
efforts
boy
to
is
curb
recovering from a broken.
around our
Good
valley.
Community in
afternoon.
Niles,
We are
one
here in
Triangle Valley
Youngstown, right
business.
Because you expect
It's
important for everyone. No place like home.
more local news.
In Mercer County
Before
Court.
they become life-threatening.
21 News is our valley's #1 local news.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
It's a Wednesday edition of Running Points on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hartwig. And let's say hi to our guest at this time. Every Wednesday at 1 o'clock, we talk golf, PGA Tour, amongst other things, with the guru of golf in the area. He is the man in charge of Mill Creek Golf Course. He is Brian Solnar. Brian, how are you today, sir?
Good, Ron. Good, Anthony. How are you guys today?
We're doing fantastic. Hey, I got to ask, the weather has been nothing short of brilliant, especially this past weekend. I got to ask, how packed were you guys with your 36-hole golf course at Mill Creek?
We had, put it to you in perspective, we were absolutely sold out all weekend. Every tee time from start to finish, and we start them at just before 6:30 on the weekend. Par 3 course included in that, and at about 10:30ish this morning, we were out of carts, all 132 of them on the property out playing. So it is full force packed. Everybody is geared up for summer golf. We're excited for them, and we're excited to have them out here. But it's been a great month weather-wise for us, and can't complain at all.
All right, I got to ask about the leagues as well. Leagues started up a few weeks ago. Talk about your leagues and how well the leagues are going.
Well, the leagues are back in full force. We've got everybody on the slate. A couple of them started early. Most of them started the first week in June, so they've got about a week or two under their belt. Historically, I mean, you look at some of our leagues here, our senior league's over 60-plus years old. The YMCA League is the oldest league in the state of Ohio. It's in its 91st year this year. We're excited to have them. They started 2 weeks ago and played last night here at Mill Creek. It's one of our more popular leagues. We've got 2 ladies' leagues that are over 50 years plus. You know, just excited to have the people back out and giving them something to do and an opportunity to get outdoors and enjoy this great weather.
Brian, before we get into previewing the upcoming PGA Tour event, the RBC Heritage at Hilton Head, South Carolina, let's go back to the Charles Schwab Invitational Challenge. And The weekend that was and could have been for our local product, Jason Kokrak. You and I and Anthony were talking last week at this time that Jason had an opportunity, if he golfed really well, to be among the league leaders. Mission accomplished. And I got to be honest, if I'm Jason, I'm looking at this happy at my third place finish, but kind of disappointed because he had a golden opportunity to win this event.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. His weekend play was as good as anybody on the PGA Tour. Just had a little hiccup in round number 2. Started great out of the gate on Thursday. Putted extremely well. Drove the ball well. You know, a little bit about what we talked about last week. You know, if he can drive the ball well, and he hits some drivers on some holes that guys usually hit hybrids or 3-woods, because he hits it so straight, he's got a lot of wedges and short irons into some of these long par 4s. And he really took advantage of them, and he had the putter going, you know, on Saturday and Sunday. And I think he's really going to ride some momentum going into the RBC Heritage this week. But, you know, any week on the PGA Tour, for how far and how good his ball striking is, how far he is off the tee, you know, he's definitely going to be a contender in that mix. And I think if he gets the putter going like he did this past weekend, I think he's going to expect a victory here very, very soon.
My first pick of the PGA season did not go well because Mr. Webb Simpson had a very rough weekend, to say the least. What went wrong for someone who was thought to have such an advantage on that course in Texas?
Well, you know, it's obviously the first tournament out of the gate. You know, some folks practice really hard in their off seasons. Other folks took an opportunity to spend some time with their family. You know, Webb's got some kids, and you know, obviously, you know, most of the kids on the PGA Tour are homeschooled because of travel. If the wife traveled with them, so I think, you know, if you're spending some time with your family, you could forget playing golf, or, you know, skip a day or two a week on practice, and it shows up from time to time. And, you know, ultimately, when you get out there the first week on the PGA Tour after a season is completed, you know, we'll say, and the guys come back in January, you know, there's a lot of rust, you know, on your game. And is it tournament ready? Is it under tournament pressure? And I think he got caught up in a little bit of probably a combination of all of those. But, I mean, you know, Webb's a great player. He'll bounce back through the course of the year, and he always seems to find a win here or there, year in and year out. And I expect good things from a lot of those guys. But take, you know, a week or two of getting used to playing competitive golf again after, you know, going out and practicing with your buddies and playing with your buddies and practicing on your own from day in and day out. But it takes a little bit to get comfortable playing tournament-wise again.
Brian Tolnar is our guest every Wednesday at 1 o'clock as we break down the PGA Tour and get ready for another weekend of golf. Before we get into the particulars of the RBC Heritage, Brian Tolnar, Director of Golf at Mill Creek, I got to ask, last weekend, and it'll be the first of more than a handful of weekends in which there is no gallery whatsoever. Does that make a big difference for the pros? Because it seemed like some of the guys that you wouldn't normally see on the leaderboard were able to play good golf. And I'm wondering if the lack of a gallery kind of took a little pressure off of these players.
Well, I think it can go two ways for you. You know, number one, a lot of those guys block out what's going on around them better than anybody in the world. That's why they're out there first and foremost. For others in the I want to say the Golf Channel or NBC or, you know, one of the telecasters over the weekend did a little segment before they came on the air of all the guys that were tipping their hat and high-fiving. They're like, who is he high-fiving, or who is he waving his hand to? Who is he tipping his hat to? So I think those guys are used to that when they make a birdie. You know, a lot of players will live on the opposite end of the spectrum with the momentum of the crowd. You make a couple birdies, you get a couple roars, you get pumped up. So I think that, you know, not being part of the equation, at least for the first couple weeks of this PGA Tour, is going to be different for some of those players. As a spectator, as someone that's looking in on the telecast week in and week out for the first couple weeks, it's definitely weird. You've seen a lot more lost golf balls, players not knowing where their ball crossed the margin of the hazard, normally because you have so many people standing there. They either knock a ball back in play, or they know where it went out of bounds, went across the hazard, or they're trampling down an area in the rough and giving these guys a more opportune shot than being in the deep stuff. So I think from that perspective, it's a little bit weird. I know a couple of the players, I want to say it was like the 13th hole. It's a little dog leg to the right with the Trinity River, just adjacent to the hole, parallel to the hole on the right-hand side. A number of players drove it in there, and they were having trouble trying to figure out where across the margin of the hazard to take their drop. So normally if you have crowd there, it's either going to hit somebody and stay in play, or it's going to hit somewhere where someone saw it cross the margin of the hazard. So it was a little bit different from that perspective.
Brian Tilnar is our guest. He is the director of golf at Mill Creek Golf Course. He is our guest every Wednesday at 1 o'clock as we talk PGA. Let's go to the upcoming PGA Tour event. It is the RBC Heritage from Harbortown Golf Links in the beautiful resort community of Hilton Head, South Carolina. And thanks to the PGA app, I'm able to see the layout of the golf course. And what catches my eye immediately is the 7th and the 13th hole. The 7th hole is a par 3 in which the bunkers surround the green. And the 13th is a 373-yard par 4 where the bunkers surround the lower part of the green. Two challenging holes, to say the least.
Absolutely. Anytime that you go to Hilton Head, and I've got some family members that are down in that area. We go visit there quite a bit. I've played there several times. Love Hilton Head. I tell everybody after I spend 20 years at Mill Creek, that's going to be my next spot. I'm going to go down there and teach and retire and relax a little bit. Just the island itself has a great vibe. The PGA Tour players love going there. There's a lot to do. There's over 35 or 40 golf courses there on the island or just off the island, so it's just a great place. You don't really have the hurricanes, the tornadoes, and everything else that you get a little bit south when you get like to Sea Island, Georgia, or a little bit north. That little inlet that cuts out Hilton Head, really hasn't had too much from the way of weather, just the way that the storms bounce around the inlet. So it's always been in great shape. Anytime that you can play a golf course designed by Pete Dye, similar to an Avalon Lakes in our area up here, very diabolical from a greens perspective. It's a par 71, just under 7,100 yards. Very, very tough, very demanding off the tee. Very similar to what we saw at Colonial last week, where it's more about accuracy off the tee. However, there's high risk, high reward. And that's where I think, we talked about Jason Kokrak last week. If he's comfortable on some of those holes and he's driving it well, you can really take advantage and have some short irons in. No different than what you're going to see this week. One of the few times that length doesn't matter, but it does to the point you have to be very, very accurate and lengthy as well. You're going to a golf course that's par 71, so it's normally a shot less than you normally would play. Normally those guys are playing par 72s, and they're playing courses that are 7,500 yards. Tournament record is 20 under by Brian Gay in 2009. Playing for $7.1 million this week. Anytime that you're playing in a tournament, you're winning over $1 million, and that's been basically the modern-day PGA Tour the past couple years. Just a great golf course. It's always in the top 20 by Golf Digest and Golf Magazine. Anytime that they're touting you've got a really good facility. A lot of the holes out there, you bring 7 and 13 into play. I talk about the 3 par 5s. Again, we had 2 last week, which normally have 4 on a 72-hole property. This week we have 3 on a par 71, all reachable by everybody in the field. The ladder on 15 is a little bit more high risk, high reward. You got to position yourself off the tee, coming in at 588, but pretty much everybody on the PGA Tour can hit any of those. You have 9 par 4s that are over 400 yards. They're 400 plus, including the last hole that comes in at 472. So you better be driving the ball well. The holes that everybody's familiar with, 16, 17, and 18, the par 3 coming in, you're on the inlet, you're on the water sound there by the lighthouse tower, and you got to hit it long, and you got to hit it accurate, and you got to decipher the wind, anything that's coming in or off with the shoreline there.
Well, I like the word you used, diabolical. I'm sure a lot of casual golfers in the area kind of say that about Mill Creek at times. But what kind of golfing style do you think this course kind of gives the best advantage to over the weekend?
I think it's definitely more so premium on irons. Like last week, the greens were relatively small, so you had to be very accurate. A traditional Pete Dye green concept is if you've played Avalon Lakes, the number 9 comes into mind, where it comes over the course of the water. It's really like 4 greens, 4 different quadrants in one. And if you don't hit it to that quadrant, the ball will roll, sometimes 60 to 80 yards down a ravine, down a slope, down into some sand, or away from the green, and it really makes you look foolish. A lot of what Pete Dye does, and I've had the opportunity to spend some time with him and his wife Alice, both when they were living years and years ago when I was at Avalon Lakes. They came in and redid the golf course the first year that I was there. Any of the holes that you hit a tee shot on, all you see is the trouble, the undulations, the curvature. When you stand in the fairway and you look back to the tee, he lifts the bunkers up so it looks like there's no trouble. So when you're standing on the green looking back to the tee, it looks like, well, how did I play this hole that bad? Because there's no trouble, there's no bunkers that you're looking at. But from the tee, he's very, very tricky on the illusions that he creates with how he sets up his bunkers and the stuff that he wants you to think about when you're on the tee. I want to avoid the left side because there's water. I want to avoid the right-hand side because there's a fairway bunker at 250. But once you get past that, and those guys are so accurate off the tee, they're placing the ball in the spots that they want. It's going to come down to who can hit the irons the most solid from the fairway into the green and be very, very accurate, because they're like having 4 greens in the one, 4 very small greens in the one in most of the holes and most of the places. And, like I said, you can hit a good shot and be 10 yards to the wrong side of the hole, and your ball runs, 30 or 40 yards left or 30 or 40 yards right, and makes you look very foolish with a mid to short iron in your hand. So you have to be very, very accurate off the tee. So there's a definite premium being in position to give yourself that iron shot into the green.
Harbor Town is definitely a thinking man's type of golf course, and my thought in all of this is your caddy better know what the heck he is doing at all times, or you, the golfer, will look very foolish. I got to believe the caddy, especially in a course like Harbor Town, the caddy is going to be extremely important.
There's no doubt about it. The caddies generally get on the premises Monday and Tuesday. They walk off just about every inch of that golf course. The yardage books and the green diaphragms that they give now, obviously the green diaphragms they're trying to eliminate and let the players figure it out. But, they're so good to the lasering. It almost looks like you're playing a Nintendo or a PlayStation game, the way that they have the grid in these yardage books that the players use. So they know from 5 feet, I'm going to have an inch of break. There's you're looking at a 2% pitch or a 5% pitch or a 25% grade from back to front. So, they have to be extremely accurate. And a lot of the times what will happen is, old school caddies would get there on Monday or Tuesday, walk the property several times. You're looking at carry yards from a bunker. You may have 251 to the front edge. You may have 260 to get over it. Basically you're stepping that off as you get to the tee. Maybe it plays 5 yards shorter because they have the tees up, or maybe it plays 10 yards longer because they have the tees back. So they're doing a lot of the calculation and the math work, and it ultimately certainly comes down to the player, but they spend a lot of time getting their yardage book for their player ready for how they want to play the golf course. Do they want to play conservatively? They want to play aggressive. They want to play certain holes defensively based on how their player hits the ball. You may have a player that hits the ball right to left, and there's a lot of left to right dog legs to it. So those are the holes that you want to just hit an iron or a hybrid off the tee, give yourself position, because their shot pattern doesn't really portray the shot that Pete Dye's trying to give you off the tee. Pete Dye, from a designer, wants you to hit every club in the bag and wants you to hit the ball right to left, left to right, high, low, all the way through the gamut of the bag in the game. He wants you to have all the shots based on every hole and how he sets up his golf courses. So the caddies are the first and foremost for getting the player set up to be able to be competitive and to be into the tournament, come Saturday and Sunday after making the cut.
Now, the weather is supposed to be normal summer weather down in Hilton Head, where you'll have temps in the mid to upper 80s, high humidity, unlike in Texas, where you don't have the humidity factor per se. But unfortunately, because you're near the ocean or practically on the ocean, the sea breeze is a good and a bad thing. Sometimes the sea breeze can bring in a scattered shower and thunderstorm, and in Hilton Head you roll the dice, and you're not going to have a day where there is absolutely no shot at rain. There's always going to be some kind of a chance of rain down there, because that's the way the weather is down there.
Absolutely. You bring up a good point. Humidity is probably the number one factor, and that's the fact that they're a little bit below sea level there in some spots along that property. So the two things that really factor in when you're below sea level or you've got high humidity, the heat's one thing, those guys will deal with it. You have to adjust for how the golf ball is flying. And traditionally, below sea level or high humidity, the ball flies about a club and a half less to a club less, depending on if there's any wind down in that area. Total opposite of what you see when they go to like Las Vegas. The ball flies forever, and those guys are hitting 8 irons from 220 yards. Here you're going to see more traditional 8 irons from 160, 170, because the air is a little bit heavier. And the only nice thing about Hilton Head is when they do get a shower down there, it's usually a 15 or 20-minute deal, and you're back out playing golf again. But on the same token, when you get that shower, the humidity jacks up about 25 or 30% as well.
All right, now let's get into who you think are some golfers to watch this weekend, and make your pick for a winner.
You got it. I think there's a number of guys that are going to play well this week. Bryson DeChambeau, I think he picks up where he left off last week, just didn't get it done over the course of the weekend. I think his game and his shot pattern suits Harbor Town extremely well. Jordan Spieth, we talked about him last week. The unknown was his putter, how he finished last year. Well, he figured that out pretty quickly because he was in the hunt over the course of the weekend. So the Power Five is going to go Bryson DeChambeau, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Matt Kuchar, who was a champion down there in 2014, and Rory McIlroy. Those are going to be the Power Five for the week. And I've got 4 sleepers for you. Jason Kokrak, obviously carrying over what he had last week. Colin Morikawa and Corey Connors, who played well in the first couple rounds, a Kent State grad. And then Luke Donald. Luke Donald probably has the most runner-ups at Harbor Town than anybody on the slate. I think he's got 5+ in that realm. So you bring those players into effect, just like you did last week at Colonial, because you don't have to be long off the tee, and the veterans. Now, history says about every other year you get a American that wins it. The last 2 have been from Taiwan and Japan, so I think you're going to have an American champion, which Bryson would fall under that. But they've been peppered with foreign players playing extremely well. You've got Graham McDowell from Northern Ireland, Carl Peterson from Sweden. It's a great international field. If you go there historically, I don't know that there's a tournament that has more World Golf Hall of Famers on its trophy than Harbor Town. You look at Arnold Palmer won there multiple times. Jack Nicklaus, Tom Watson, Payne Stewart won there, I believe, 3 times. Bernhard Langer, again, going with the foreign players. Nick Faldo, Nick Price from South Africa. Greg Norman, multiple winner. Johnny Miller, multiple winner. Hale Irwin, multiple winner there. So, I mean, it's got a great international feel. Again, another one of these events that is a invitational status. Traditionally, they've been at 120 players with these invitationals because they've been, preoccupied with the COVID stuff and not been playing. They've increased this field to 144, just like they did at Colonial last week. So it's a bigger field than what they normally see down there. One of the few tournaments, this one reminds me of what you see at the Waste Management earlier in the year in Arizona, where you just have, the 16 hole that they put up the stadium. It's a big party with a lot of people. This is traditionally what this tournament is from a spectator's point of view. On the island itself, during the off season at Hilton Head, you have about 30,000 people on the island. During season, which is right now, and during PGA Tour Week, they have 1.48 million on the island. So they drastically increase the number of people that are there, and a lot of them, they do probably over 200,000 plus in spectators for the week. So it's going to be different not to be able to see that because of the spectators not being there. But, I think from the players' perspective, it's a good week to, really crawl in the season like Colonial was last week, where you don't have to bomb it. You just want to get your game going the first couple weeks before you start into the beat of the schedule.
Brian Tilnar, our guest, he is the director of golf at the Mill Creek Golf Course. And, boy, if you haven't golfed at Mill Creek yet, do yourself a favor and get up at tee time and get yourself out to Mill Creek. 2 18-hole courses. You can go the north end, you can go the south end. Both of the 18-hole courses are incredible. Brian, before we let you go, this is the portion of the show that I absolutely love because I'm always trying to improve my pathetic golf game. You gave great advice for the putting last week. What is your words of wisdom this week?
This week and probably the next couple, we're going to spend around the green just like we did with putting. That's a good starting point. We're going to work from the green back to the tee. We're going to talk a little bit about chipping, and there's a couple different forms of chipping. What we're going to talk about today is the shot that you see on television, where you see a pro come in with a low chip shot. It'll check a couple times and stop. And that's really what we're going to try to talk about with this. Now, this works on a fly that's on the apron, on the fringe, or on the fairway, usually about 20 yards and in from the green. Generally, if it's not sloping away from you, most of the greens that we play in this part of the country are traditionally from back to front tilt, side to front tilt, so you're good with this shot. So what you want to do is you want to take your sand wedge, 56 degree preferably. We want to leave the 60 degree out of the bag. We'll talk about that in the next couple weeks or so. We want to talk about golf ball placement. So we've got a pin shot. We're going to say, for the sake of argument, we're coming in straight with a back to front pitch. We want you to be about 2 or 3 feet left with your feet close together. We're really going to position our weight on the front foot. We want to position the ball position about an inch inside your toe line of your right foot. So golf's game of opposites. Weight on the front, golf ball position to the back. We want your hands to be slightly ahead, and part of getting your weight forward also helps you get your hands ahead. From this perspective, we want the arms and shoulders to take the club back. You're probably talking about, anytime that we talk about chipping and pitching inside 20 yards, we want to make sure that the golf club stays certainly below hip level. The closer you are, you want to keep it at your kneecap level. So we want to make sure it goes back that far, and we want to make sure it follows through that far. Just like we talked in putting last week, however far your putter's coming back, we want to make sure it accelerates through. We want to keep that same theory with this pitch shot. So as we do that, we want the angle of attack to be a little bit steeper. Our first connection has to be with the golf club coming downward into the golf ball. So the golf ball will hit the ground, but it'll hit the ground slightly ahead of where the center of your apex of your swing is. So the first contact is golf ball, so we're pinching the ball on the ground, which is going to allow us to put that backspin on it. And what it's going to do is when it flies to the green, it's going to have that backspin. It has to fly to the green. Can't fly to the fringe because it'll take that spin off. So we want to make sure we fly to the green. We're using the short grass of the green. The ball will check, take a couple hops, and it'll stop and ever so slightly roll out just a touch, not very far. So you can almost stop it on a dime. But you want to make sure you maintain that angle coming down into the ball. First contact has to be the golf ball, and then that club will continue to drive towards the ground. And we want to make sure that we accelerate it through for how long we took the club back on the backswing. So it's a good way to get the ball to stop relatively quickly.
Okay, now I wrote this down. So you want the feet together, and you want the ball an inch from your right foot?
Just inside your right foot line.
Just so inside your right foot line.
Yep. Your feet will be slightly left of the target, 2 or 3 yards left of where you're trying to fly it, and it's going to be just inside. So you're getting the club, and you're coming down steeply into the golf ball.
That sounds like a plan, Brian. I can't wait to try this. And between this and the putting, I feel like my game around the green is going to be exponentially better.
60% of your game is around the green and chipping, pitching, and putting and bunker play. If we can tighten those up and save one shot every other hole, you're knocking 4 or 5 shots off your game very, very easily. So that's very, very important. 60% of your score, chipping and putting. So it's got to be fine-tuned.
Brian Tolnar, the director of golf at Mill Creek Golf Course, thank you so very much. We'll do it again next week.
You got it. No better place to spend a Father's Day than Mill Creek.
Hey, let me before we let you go, and God, I get tired of saying that, but go with any specials that you have for Father's Day weekend, Brian.
We've got gift cards on sale in the pro shop all weekend, and our gift cards are good for our place, the par 3. Normally, if the boathouses are up and running, they'd be usable there as well. But since they're closed down with the COVID, they're good for either or. Good for the driving range as well. It's a great weekend to take Dad out, buy Dad a golf shirt. We've got free gift wrapping here in the pro shop, so we've got very nice logoed bags. We got some tissue paper that goes in, name tags on them, so you can get Dad something really, really cool. And it's a great place to spend a golfing weekend with your dad. So don't hesitate calling us and giving us tee time.
All right, let me ask you, because Sunday the weather is supposed to be pretty solid. How early on do you guys accept the tee times for Sunday?
As early as you can get them because they're going fast. The phone's been off the charts, and our online booking at millcreekmetroparks.org has been filling up. We went from 8% when we started that earlier this year, and we've got about 40% of our bookings done online now. So you can check those out there and book ahead.
Brian, always a pleasure. Look forward to catching up with you next week, brother.
You got it. Always nice to talk about golf, and appreciate you guys having me on there. Heard your conversation earlier. I'm a big fan of the Hubbard Eagle.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. All right, Brian, always a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you soon, kid.
You got it. Have a great Father's Day weekend.
See ya. Brian Tolnar, he is the director of golf at Mill Creek, joining us every Wednesday at 1 o'clock as we talk PGA. I'm not surprised he has Bryson DeChambeau as one of the favorites to win this. Bryson looked really impressive in Texas over the weekend.
That was going to be my pick coming into the day. I had him circled because he looked really good last weekend, and he fell apart a little bit, fell just short of that playoff. But I really liked what he did last weekend, and this course is pretty similar. So that was going to be my pick.
No, listen, you got him circled. That's fine.
All right.
That's fine.
I'll go with DeChambeau then.
Okay, all of us had DeChambeau up there. I think Justin Thomas is going to be the guy. Consider this. Justin Thomas last week, he had a lot of chances on Sunday
He did.
To get it going. And he really didn't look all that great on Sunday, but he was still able to notch his 50th top 10 finish on the PGA Tour. I like Justin Thomas this weekend.
And another guy I had circled was Morikawa.
Yes.
Colin Morikawa. I think he'll have a really good weekend too. And I wouldn't be surprised if McIlroy's up there because he's always been good in this kind of course.
He was my guy last week, and I was so excited when I saw the leaderboard after Saturday because I saw a little bit of the event. I mean, I was umping an 11U tournament in Austintown and spent all day in Austintown. So I saw the leaderboard, and I saw McIlroy was among the leaders, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be fantastic. I'm going to look like a freaking genius because he's gonna play really well on Sunday. Now, Rory had one of those days where it just went bad to worse and worse to god-awful. And it was one of those ugly performances.
His head caved in. His hat stopped fitting.
Yeah, that was tough to see. Very, very tough to see.
So I got DeChambeau. You got Justin Thomas.
All right, so you and Brian both have Bryson DeChambeau. I'm going to go Justin Thomas. I tend to agree with Brian, though. The last few years, a couple of Taiwanese and one Japanese golfer won. It is time for an American golfer to win this tournament, and I think that we'll get someone representing the United States to win this weekend.
And just to play devil's, don't forget about Hideki Matsuyama because I think he's gonna have a good weekend, and he's one of the non-American golfers that I think it might spoil that party.
I liked your original pick, DeChambeau, but Colin Morikawa is another guy that is definitely on the radar. this weekend. And I think locally, I think Jason Kokrak, as long as he can pick up the momentum that he had this past weekend, and who knows, maybe he will be able to do that. Boy, if he can be as accurate as he was last weekend, he's got a legitimate chance to win this weekend.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun because now these golfers are going to have a week under their belt. Some of that rust might go off. I wouldn't be surprised if Webb Simpson has a good bounce back. I'm not going to.
Yeah, you're not going to jinx him this
I'm
weekend.
not going to.
Oh Lordy. Yeah, you're not gonna be on Webb Simpson because the last thing we need is to have Webb Simpson call in this program and say, "Hey, you need to stop saying that I'm gonna be good." So golfers are just as superstitious as baseball guys. Believe me.
We're gonna get a call from Webb, and he's gonna be like, "Hey, man." Yes, I appreciate the support. Stop doing it.
You stop doing that. Stop doing that. All right, 330-886-0813. It's Mascot Day. Your favorite mascot. Love to hear from you. Give me your favorite mascots. We will talk a little bit about that. We'll also open up the phone lines, and we'll talk a little Major League Baseball amongst other things. That is all coming up in a bit. It is a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com.
Details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
Storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
The inner showers I'm keeping my eye on in parts of Columbiana County.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi everyone, this is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
Welcome back to a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hartwig, and let's go to the phone lines. Champ, what's going on, brother?
Hey, how you guys doing? I am playing Mill Creek this Sunday. Our Sunday group's traveling to Mill Creek. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a little hot though, I think.
All right, do you do what Brian Tolnar suggested as his advice for the week with the sand wedge?
Yeah, I actually, I'm a left-hander, so I think when you watch golf, even though Phil Mickelson is actually right-handed, he is arguably one of the greatest players ever in terms of imagination with some of his wedges. He has several different wedges, and some of the shots he pulls off, and when you see him, is incredible. But I use my stand wedge a lot, and pitch and run. That's it with my pitching wedge, pitch and run. That's very important. Lob wedge is a club I don't use very often, but when you have to hit something really high over a trap at a short distance, that's the club to use. But positioning of the feet is important for me. Obviously, if you want to pitch and run, you want to play the ball to the back of your stance. If you want to hit it higher, you play the ball to the front of your stance. But as he says, short game is very important. if you can, get to the point where you master a lot of those shots, you could literally save. And he said, I think a shot every other hole. I think that's correct. That's a very good description of what can happen in a short game.
All right, Champ, you wanted to get your opinion on the best mascot on this mascot day that we celebrate every year.
Yeah, keep in mind now, a lot of these colleges that usually the chancellor or the president of the university gets up and says, well, I'm going to name the mascot. That's where you find like bears and tigers and lions and common things like that. But that's not what happens usually, because it usually goes to the students to a vote. And when you get students, college students that are ages between 18 and 21, and we don't know what kind of drugs they're on, you're going to get bizarre mascots. That's the bottom line. And some of these ones I picked out, and it's sad that you can't see these things, but you got to look some of these things up. Like, for example, Concordia College has a thing called, their mascot's the Colonel Cobb. And it's basically a big angry ear of corn with untidy hair and a sweater. He has green Husker pants. And they decided to do that because a lot of the opposing fans used to call them corn cobs over the years. So they said, okay, we're going to be what you want us to be. And that's Colonel Cobb is the official mascot of that. The Stanford tree is unusual because unofficially the team does not have a mascot. The Stanford tree actually belongs to the band. And how that happened is they had several names, but in 1975, the band performed halftime shows featuring like the three top candidates. One was a steaming manhole, the other was a French fry, and the third one was a tree. And they decided on the tree, and it's based on the El Palo Alto historic redwood tree in Menlo Park. And it changes all the time, but that is unofficially the team's mascot, that it actually belongs to the band. Because you can never figure out what's that tree doing out there, but that's the story behind the Stanford.
And that is actually one of my favorite mascots because, I mean, who doesn't want to dress up like a tree?
Yeah, and it is kind of interesting to see that, but I don't think you want to get in a fight with a redwood tree though, because they're pretty big.
That's why Stanford is the cardinal instead of they're not the Cardinals because they're not the bird, they're the cardinal because it's the tree. They're also one of I think 6 Division I football teams that have their mascot not end in an S.
Right, and a lot of people mispronounce that. It's the cardinal, not the Cardinals. It's the color, not the bird, basically. But another one is the Delta State University. They have a thing called the Fighting Okra, and it's the official mascot. It's the Statesman. It's a ferocious vegetable creature with boxing gloves. And you got to look this one up because that looks bizarre. The University of California, Santa Cruz, they have Sammy the Banana Slug, and it's a bright, slimy mole that's often found in the redwoods near the campus. That's a sight to see. The most mysterious one is the St. Louis University, the Billiken, because if you look at it, it's a goblin, kind of a bat and elf, and it's got elfish ears and a light blue skin. But there really is no really reason why they call it the Billiken. The website says that it's the out-of-this-world mascot based on the mythical good luck figure who represents things as they ought to be. And there's several stories, but the one most commonly that you read about, it's supposedly this Billiken represents a former football coach. And boy, that must have been a sight for sore eyes, this football coach, because it kind of looks like a gargoyle at times. But it was designed by a lady in 1908, but that's the strangest story I've ever heard, the Billikens of St. Louis University.
I tell you, the one that always confuses me is Wake Forest, because they're the Demon Deacons, and I've always scratched my head because it's like, that's an oxymoron. You can't be a demon and a deacon at the same time.
Yeah, it's an oxymoron. You're right, and that's interesting. But now, ever see the Otto the Orange? Syracuse's that's bizarre looking, and you wonder, wow, who thought of that idea? And no history of that. But Evergreen State College, they got a thing called the Speedy the Gooey Duck, and it's actually a huge, boring clam, and you got to take a look at that one. That's a scary one. That looks like something you see in a 1960s black and white horror film coming out of the ocean. It's ugly. The Purple Cow is Williamstown, Massachusetts. It was named after the Humor Student magazine back in 1907. They kept it, the Purple Cow. This was the funniest one for me. Scottsdale Community College in Arizona, Artie the Artichoke. And it was voted by students as the mascot as a protest for the college proposal to divert funds for the academic courses to pay for athletic teams. They voted in Artie the Artichoke, and that's a sight for sore eyes also. But those are some of the weird ones. But, I got to tell you, my favorite, I'll stay home. I think Pete the Penguin is my favorite. It's I don't know if there's another university named the Penguins in this country or not.
No, there isn't, and I'm with you. Pete the Penguin to me is iconic, and always will be iconic, because again, we're the Penguins. You're right. There is no other D1 university that is nicknamed the Penguins, and I dig Pete the Penguin.
If I ever get ungodly rich, I'm going to donate a penguin habitat to YSU so they can have live penguins on campus.
There you go.
Good luck trying to figure out that.
Cool.
Yeah. Good luck trying to figure out the story behind why it's a penguin. Good luck with that one, because there's a lot of different variations of that one in terms of why the Youngstown College at the time is called the Penguins. Good luck with that, finding that real story.
Yeah, but I love I love the whole theme. I mean, Stambaugh's the ice castle.
Right.
Beakley. We gotta come up with some kind of a nickname, penguin-ish nickname for Beakley.
Yeah, maybe we could call it Burgess Bear the Stadium.
Ah, there you go. Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, right. But real quickly on baseball, guys. I guess my question is, I know there's been distrust on both sides, and I know why the players don't trust the owners, but what would be the reason why the owners wouldn't trust the players?
Well, essentially, they're grubby. That according to the owners, they want all of their money, so they distrust them because they want all kinds of money, and they just they continue to ask for more and more and more and more, and the owners don't trust them because, well, how many of those players have lived up to those large contracts?
Yeah, but I guess I see a different kind of distrust because the other side's distrust is they basically just didn't follow the contract. They through collusion and other things like that. But I just, what? And my problem right now is not even with the contracts and all that stuff. I just think from the very beginning I've said this. I don't know how, and I agree with John Harbaugh, the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. I read through that whole thing on the NFL, what they have to do for this virus and this and that. We haven't even talked about playing yet. I just still don't see any sports happening for more than 1 or 2 weeks because of the virus. And you already see now where there's baseball players now and football players are testing positive. I just don't see how they get these games off, these full contact sports. Golf is working; it can work. I mean, I'm sure hockey's going to try, basketball, but football, I just can't see how you can play football with a very serious infection virus going on until we get a vaccine. I just don't see it happening. I hate to keep repeating that, but there's just too many things with football, too many players, and too many things that happen that they're just going to have a very difficult time taking care of. And unfortunately, I don't want it to be like that, but I still stick with my original thought is I don't see football happening at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, I tend to agree that if there's two sports that has a better shot at having a season, it would be baseball long before football, because in baseball, everyone is spread out with the exception of the catcher and the hitter and the umpire. Other than that, everyone else is pretty much spread out. You are well beyond 6 feet from everyone. Now, when a guy's on at first base, even when he takes a lead, he's well past 6 feet from the first baseman. Now, when he comes back, when you're throwing the ball to try to pick him off, okay, that's a situation. But you can't say the same for football, because every play that you are lining up and doing on offense or defense, you're going to have guys inches apart on the offensive and defensive line. So automatically, it just doesn't flow very well with the social distancing policy. So I tend to agree with what you're saying, Champ. I just hope and pray that between now and September, we're going to have a much, much better grasp and a much better chance of kicking this virus to the curb once and for all.
Yeah, because I don't know if this country could survive in the fall and into the winter without some type of football that we can watch or go to. I just don't know if we can make it. That would be the last straw. That it's going to be really tough if that happens like that. But maybe they'll end up moving everything to the wintertime. Maybe they'll start the season in January. Who knows? That's a possibility.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder aloud what we're going to be doing in terms of football, because I'm with you. If we don't have football, oh my gosh, you thought the outrage was crazy with baseball. No, that's peanuts compared to what the outrage would be if you didn't have any football. There would be rioting going on.
Yeah, and then there's going to be no gambling either if there's no football. That's really going to be
that's true too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like when they ran out of coffee on those airplane movies, remember? And everything was fine until there's no more coffee.
Yeah, and all hell breaks loose in airplane. Yeah, that was good.
Right.
That was good.
All right, that's all I got. That's all I got for today, guys. So
Thank
appreciate
you, sir.
it. Thanks.
I appreciate it. And there he goes. Brought up some good points, and we hate to always look at what could be an obvious, because we all want football back. But Champ brings up a really interesting point. I mean, as of right now, we couldn't play football right now. Not in the culture that we're in. And hopefully, fingers crossed, in the next month or two, we'll be able to have a much better feel on COVID.
Yeah, and especially when you talk about college football, because we said it before, so many of these colleges need their football program financially. If there's no football, there's not going to be a lot of there's going to be a lot of other sports that can't happen, not because of the COVID, but just because of financially they just can't support them without football.
Agreed. I mean, that's football is the main source of the athletic department's income everywhere, and that's a large part of that budget and a large part of the income. So without football, I would shudder to ask how many sports would ultimately be canceled for the year.
Every non-revenue sport needs to root for football to be back, because if it's not, they're in a lot of trouble.
No question. No question about that. I think that's a very valid point, and hopefully, we still have time. The NFL, you normally have training camp around this time next month. So you still have a month to figure out, okay, can we get a little bit better in terms of our defense against COVID-19? If you can't, this could be really entertaining, or not entertaining, it'd be really interesting to see what you do with football. I could see a delay. I could definitely see a delay in football.
You know what I could see, and I wouldn't be surprised if they start on time, but then something goes wrong 2 or 3 weeks into the season, and then they have to just kind of, take a step back or something. That's like worst case scenario. But right now, I just wouldn't be, because the NFL right now is kind of being a little bit cavalier about what they're doing. Roger Goodell came out after those players got tested positive, and he was basically like, look, players are going to test positive. It's going to happen. We're more worried about protocol after that happens and trying to keep that number down as low as possible than trying to avoid it happening altogether. So the NFL and Roger Goodell is being kind of cavalier about it. So it might come back to bite them if we don't get better by September.
They've said all along, hey, look, we're going to start the season.
Yeah.
And some people in the NFL have said, not only are we going to start the season, the fans are going to be there. Unrealistic, number one, for the fans to be there. That's probably not going to happen. And I think it is a very cavalier for the NFL to sit back and say, hey, we don't have any problems here. We are going to start the season, and that's it. That's what we're going to do. Okay, the first outbreak, I'm with you, Anthony. I think the week number 1, if you see a high number of players start to test positive, now we're going to have some serious thoughts whether the league is going to continue.
Especially if it happens in different parts of the country. Like if you see a big spike in New York and then a big spike in a game in San Francisco, oh no, we don't even have it geographically contained. It'd be different if there's a big spike in let's say Tampa Bay, and then there's also a big spike in what's the closest team to Tampa Bay? Miami. So let's just say both.
Or Atlanta.
Okay, at least it's kind of centered in the South. We can kind of try to contain it in there. But if it's happening in New York, Foxborough, and then all of a sudden over here in Seattle, you don't even have it contained geographically.
And unfortunately, the truth of the matter is we don't have it contained, period, because there's about 20 or 25 states that have an outbreak, and then there's 20 or 25 states that have been kind of under the wraps. Well, again, football is not centered in the 25 states exclusively that don't have the high numbers. It's unfortunate. But it is a reality that, a lot of folks have had their head in the sand saying, well, we'll be okay in the fall. Nothing's going to happen to football. If the NFL were starting in the next week or so, it wouldn't be starting.
Well, thank God it's not.
Exactly. Because we still have about a month or 5 weeks to hopefully come up with something where we're going to be able to have a season without any problems, and we'll just see.
To be honest, I'd rather the NFL be a little bit more on the Cavalier side than more on if they were on the other end of the spectrum, where they were kind of pussyfooting rounding stuff and trying to walk on eggshells. I don't think that would sit right with NFL.
No, it wouldn't.
So I like them a little bit more on the Cavalier side. I'm just hoping that it doesn't come back to bite them if they ramp up a little bit too fast.
You got to be a little bit in between.
Yeah.
You can't be milquetoast where you're going to sit back and just go on your back and say, okay, I'm uncle, I've had enough. We're just going to throw the white flag for the whole year. You can't do that. That's milquetoast. That's stupid. But you also can't sit back and say, without any hesitation, oh, yeah, we're going to have football and there's not going to be a problem. Wait a second. That's kind of being way too cavalier about it. You have to be cautiously optimistic. And if there's a problem, and, we talked about this on Monday, the Dallas Cowboys and the Houston Texans had an outbreak of multiple players testing positive, including Ezekiel Elliott. That happens in the regular season. Those guys are down for a couple of weeks. The last thing you want is to have a potential superstar player out for a couple of weeks because of a non-injury, but something that could taint the whole club.
With Sam Darnold's luck, he would get it. Because he came off the mono last year.
Yeah, no kidding. It's bad enough he doesn't have anybody to throw to. Now I could just see that happening. Wow. That's an interesting thought.
Champ brought some really good stuff to that mascot discussion. He was firing on all cylinders. That might be my favorite Champ call yet. Because he had these obscure mascots from community colleges. He knew the history of when they were made. He was ready.
Okra was one of my favorites. Because I lived in the South for about 6 or 7 years. Fried okra is a delicacy down there. I mean, I looked at it and I was like, what the hell is this?
It's an okra.
And why does it look disgusting? I don't want any part of this. This is from the same people that think boiled peanuts are really good. This just in. Boiled peanuts are not good. They are not tasty. It's like eating a peanut that doesn't have crunch. It's more of a chew. I don't want a peanut that is a chew. I need to have, a nut is supposed to be crunchy. That's a peanut, a walnut, a cashew, a almond. They're all supposed to be crunchy, and that doesn't make any sense. Okra it's I don't even know how to describe how it tastes. It's not good. It's just my opinion. It's just not good. Now, I love the fried catfish, and their barbecue is out of this world, pulled pork and whatnot, but fried okras, that's low on my list.
I wonder if there's anything in Louisiana that's nicknamed the gumbo. Because you know how big they like their gumbo down there.
Gumbo's great.
In Louisiana. So.
Yeah, gumbo's fantastic. That's some good stuff. Just get rid of the beans.
Yeah.
And eat around the beans, because you got the rice, you get the sausage, and it's that's high quality stuff right there.
There's a pretty big high school in Georgia where a lot of big name players have come out of, whether it be football or baseball.
Warner Robins?
It's called Cairo.
Okay.
And they're the syrup makers, which is awesome.
Nice.
Like I think their mascot's a bottle of syrup, or maybe one of those pours of syrup. But
yeah.
I mean, great. Like when you go to a game and you're automatically hungry because you're staring at syrup the whole time.
See, if you have that mascot along with a Montgomery Biscuits mascot, now I'm famished. And you put the syrup on the biscuit, and now I'm looking to eat some mascots. I'm just saying.
That could be the broadcaster's catchphrase. Put the syrup on the biscuit. We're going on.
Yeah, put the syrup on the biscuit. This game is over. 330-886-0813. Ouch. Thursday night, I might have to use that. Put the syrup on the biscuit. This one is over. Back in a bit. It is a Wednesday edition of Running Points on YSNLive.com.
Baird Brothers remains your source for fine hardwood products. For the time being, we're open for customer pickup only on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon. Place your order online at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
The 4M Company, being an architect and construction manager for over 40 years, has had the opportunity to use many different electrical businesses for our projects. The depth, quality, and knowledge and attention to detail displayed by Dickey Electric makes them stand out above all the rest.
For state-of-the-art expertise and a timeless commitment to our customers, contact Joe Dickey Electric. We are everything electrical.
Fresh limousine. I'm feeling pretty good about myself, like I'm living the dream. Platform shoes, strut down the street. It's gonna get hot in here. I hope you can handle the heat.
Over the years, you watched us grow, and as we've done, so has the Myers Family Insurance team.
Thanks to all of you who have trusted our families to help you with your Medicare needs.
Myers Family Insurance looks forward to helping you now for years to come. So call our family today and remind them how cute we are.
Myers Family Insurance continues to be the area's resource for all your Medicare and retirement needs. Call today, 330-286-3044.
It's a Wednesday edition of Running Points on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hartwig. It is Mascot Day, and we've been talking about mascots that tickle our fancy. If you're a fan of mascots, I'm still a big fan of Pete the Penguin. We've talked about the Philly Fanatic, San Diego Chicken. Locally, we mentioned Pete the Penguin. The Hubbard Eagle might be the best high school mascot in this area.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that, I mean, he doesn't just show up at football games. He shows up at basketball. He shows up at baseball. He shows up at any sporting event that Hubbard is doing. And I saw when the shutdown first initially happened, he was a part of a parade through Hubbard where he was, sticking out of the back of a truck driving through Hubbard. And that's just the kind of thing you can do when you have a mascot like that.
There you go. That's good stuff. I mean, and number one, it shows a lot of community pride.
Yeah.
And there is school spirit involved in that as well. I mean, and look, some of the kids might look at this and go, "Oh my God, this is so friggin' stupid." Having a mascot running around, and the cool crowd that would say something like that. When in reality, they're the undesirables. Yeah, I'm still bitter over not being very popular. I was more of a nerd than anything else. I was a band geek when I was in school.
The Sean Connery Untouchables.
Yeah. I was a band geek. I got to be honest. It was 4 years in band and whatnot. So
when
PA announcer.
When I was at South Range, during my high school years, their football team was down on South Range's standards. They were winning like 6 or 5 games a year, and it was funny because the football team, because South Range takes their band so seriously, and band makes up about a third of the high school population is in band. They get really good band numbers, and the football team would always joke, "Man, I'm glad the band lets us use their field."
There you go. Absolutely. And look, in all honesty, that is a huge part of the culture of football. Yeah. If you have a solid football program, but you have a band program, music department that's substandard, okay. I mean, it's fun to go to the games, but I mean, let's be honest. If you have a substandard music department and kids are playing the fight song and it's out of tune, and you got only 20 kids that are marching in a band, yeah, that's not a. I mean, it's okay, but I mean, for me, I gotta have a solid football program.
Yeah.
And with that solid football program, I gotta have a band that is kicking ass and taking names every time they're on the field, and they're blowing their instruments and a lot of brass, because I was a trombone player back in the day. You got to have the trumpets, trombones, and tubas, and the baritones and whatnot, and every scatter around the flutes and clarinets and saxes.
If you're really cool, you throw in a bass guitar.
Absolutely.
And you throw in a rock and drum line.
You got to have the rock and drum line. You must have
it's really
a drum
cool
line that's cool.
You can tell once you listen to a really good drum line, you can start to tell when the drum line is subpar, really quick.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Really quick.
And this area is blessed with some damn good music departments.
And I tip the hat to the smaller schools to put together really good bands, because you got less to choose from, so United comes to mind. I think they have a really good band. Noam Baker does a really good job with their band program down at United, so I'm going to give a shout out to them.
My alma mater is a nice band. They do a pretty solid job for the very small school district. Year in, year out. Leetonia's band is 45, 50, maybe a little more strong, and they have a nice performance year in, year out. They do a really nice job. But you get into some of the bigger schools. Hubbard's music program is incredible.
Yep.
Lakeview, Girard, Poland, and then you get into the bigger schools.
Don't even start about Austintown, Fitch.
And Fitch is more patriotic than anything. Although in recent years, Fitch has played a lot of more modern tunes, but they've been more patriotic. A lot of John Philip Sousa and whatnot. Boardman is a completely different animal. They're a show band that just, not only are they musically talented, they perform kind of a skit during their musical performance. And Boardman's and Harding's music program is off the charts, incredible. Just so many programs. Canfield has an unbelievable music department, and that, I hope, when we get football, I hope it's not at the expense of telling the bands, "Hey, look, we're just going to have the football team do their thing, and we're really not going to have any marching bands per se," because that's just going to take all of the air out of the stadium. Because whether folks want to admit this or not, and I know there's a lot of folks that kind of tune out at halftime and try to get their food and go potty break or whatever, talk to your friends and really not pay attention that much to the band. I got news for you. If you don't have a band in a football environment, in a football game, your environment sucks. It just does. You have no no enthusiasm, no environment because you don't have a band.
I like the ones that do the drum roll before the kickoff.
Oh yeah.
And then as soon as the kick goes, you go, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And then some of them get real creative, and the trombone will be like,
yeah, 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 absolutely.
So, if you had a school that takes their band seriously, then people don't even get up for the band. They sit down and they'll listen to the band, then they'll go to the bathroom after their band's over.
Yeah, it's just the band. The band is a huge part of Friday night, and I really, really hope, if and when we have football, high school football, please, for the love of God, do not forget about the band, because without the band, the excitement level falls dramatically. You have no atmosphere whatsoever.
In college too. I mean, it's one of the trademarks of college football is the band. I mean, who else is going to play Rocky Top?
There you go. And let's be honest. And I know a lot of people are Buckeye fans. I don't really follow Ohio State all that much. My allegiance is to YSU and Notre Dame.
Yep.
But I'll be honest. If you take the Buckeye Marching Band, the alleged best damn band in the land, which highly debatable, they are great, make no mistake about it, but it's highly debatable. If you take Ohio State's band away from Ohio Stadium on a Saturday afternoon or a Saturday night in Columbus, Ohio, you have no energy in that stadium.
And their band has one of the better traditions, which is
Script Ohio.
The dot the I.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone, you get the honor of being able to dot the I. So.
I can't imagine a Saturday afternoon in Columbus, Ohio, without the Ohio State University marching band performing. If that's the case, and this is going to sound really bad,
just don't play.
But if you're telling me that I can watch football, college football, but I'm not going to have the Ohio State University band at a Buckeye game, I don't want to see the game. I just don't. Forget about that. You might as well just cancel the Ohio State season because it's one thing to sit back and say, okay, let's root on the Buckeyes. If you don't have the marching band along with the football program, that's one package.
Right.
You are not going to have one without the other. If you're trying to sell me one without the other, then I don't want to see football at Ohio State. I just don't. And I know a lot of people would look at that and man, that's kind of a radical opinion, but it's true.
Those people, one game without the band would be like, oh, maybe Ron was right a little bit, because music is one of those things that you don't really notice until it's gone.
Yeah.
Like, there's some really good movies that you go and you'll watch, but then watch it without the instrumental score, and it just
there's no energy
anymore. I mean,
there's no energy. Okay, I'll give a classic example. And we could go back in time to one of the iconic movies of the 1970s, Jaws. All right. You got the great white shark, and the great white shark is ready to attack. I'm sorry, but you are not on the edge of your seat unless you hear da-dum, da-dum, bum-bum, bum-bum. No, you're not on the edge of your seat.
Especially because Spielberg was such a genius in not showing you the shark.
Exactly.
So the anticipation
of that.
Over the
and he fooled you one time.
He did.
And then you're like, damn you, Spielberg, why did you do that? The other, Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Without that sound, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, that's just a guy in a hockey mask that's cutting people up.
Halloween, it's four notes. But it's one of the most spine-chilling scores you'll ever see.
Yeah, there you go.
John Carpenter, you're a genius, man. John Williams, you're a genius too.
No, John Williams was phenomenal. It's what is that? The Empire song. When so when a visiting team comes into Cleveland, they're playing that song. And you're like, oh yeah, it's time to boo because these guys are being introduced. It's time to boo, especially if the evil empire, aka the New York Yankees, are in town. It's perfect fit because it's nothing says Darth Vader quite like anyone in a pinstripe uniform.
Right, with the black hat.
Yeah, with a black hat, and then that god awful NY insignia.
They wear the black hat. That's the obvious sign of a villain, In
There you
the
go.
old Wild West movies, good guys wear white, bad guys wear black.
There you
That's
go.
just how it goes.
Yep, that's it. So
You're wearing black. So
long story short, if you're going to try to sell me college football without the band, count me out. I'm out and I'll say it from a Notre Dame standpoint. If I'm not hearing the Notre Dame fight song, or after the third quarter, the 18-12 overture, I'm out. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see Notre Dame play football unless the Notre Dame marching band goes along with the football team. That is a package. That's if you're a fan of Michigan, and God help you if you are. I mean, God does forgive those who screw up. You poor soul, you.
But you live in the past because Michigan has had a very successful program. It just hasn't been there since, 1980s maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
Early 90s?
But if you're a fan of Michigan, I mean, look, whether you dislike Michigan, like Michigan, or somewhere in between, Hail to the Victors is a really cool fight song. I mean, it is. It's a really cool fight song. Hey, I'm not going to watch Michigan without their band. No, hell no, I'm not. That's just... Count me out. If we're going college football without the band, count me out. I don't want it. I can't do it. I didn't like YSU. YSU, I hear the Penguin fight song. All right, now we're ready to go. Could you imagine, and I've gone to more than a few basketball games at Beagley.
Without the pep band?
Their pep band is unbelievable.
It is.
I mean, it is really incredibly good pep band. Without that pep band, and they're just warming up, the guys are just warming up. Oh, what is this? All right, I guess we're going to have a basketball game.
Start to feel like high school again because you're just pumping music into the PA.
Yeah, it's just, okay, whatever. I mean, that's why I love, on the basketball, I love when the music programs have their pep band. Absolutely love it. Poland, you brought up the guy with the bass guitar. Yeah, Poland has everything. Poland's got the keyboard player, they got the bass guitar player, and they're just unbelievable. You go into the Poland gym, not only are you going to see great basketball, you're going to hear unbelievable music leading up to the basketball game, because it's just the role of a pep band, the role of a marching band during football season in college, in high school and college, irreplaceable. And you cannot have one without the other. Just my opinion. So there you go. All right, 330-886-0813. That is the number to call. We made mention last Friday, talked about whether or not we would have baseball and whether we would have an agreement. And we both said, yeah, I think we'll have an agreement by Monday.
Been openly optimistic this whole
ride. we were kind of wrong on that. Let me throw this out. And I mentioned earlier in the show that all this is with Manfred and the owners is a bunch of posturing. Look, at the end of the day, push comes to shove, the postseason and the opportunity to make millions upon millions of dollars in an expanded postseason is going to be way too much for the Major League Baseball to poo-poo the 2020 campaign. So in my mind, Rob Manfred is either going to step to the podium a week from now or 2 weeks from now, and he's going to announce either a 60-game season or a 52-game season, but we are going to have baseball.
I love that. I'd love to say it, but man, baseball has shattered my optimistic attitude. Because every week we're like, they're gonna get this done. They're gonna have baseball, and then a week goes by, and we're like, well, they missed again. They missed again. So I hope that makes sense. But with baseball the way it is right now, who knows? I mean, who knows?
Let me ask you.
If they play baseball, there's consequences to that too, because the players are gonna file a grievance. It's going to affect the future of baseball. So yeah, they'll make a lot of money, but there's some consequences now to playing the season since we stretch out this negotiation. Now Manfred just has to say we're playing. There are consequences to that.
Oh, because they didn't come up with an agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, the union is definitely going to file a grievance if it's not their way, and that's okay. That's a separate entity. But if you don't have baseball in 2020 and you go into 2021 and it would be the last year of their labor agreement, and then after 2021 you have an expired labor agreement. If you don't have baseball in 2020, there's no guarantee that the fans are going to come back in 2021. I know personally, I won't see a game in Cleveland or Pittsburgh. I will not attend as a fan or as a member of the media. I will not attend a game in either place if there's no baseball this year.
At this point, I mean, would the fact that they play baseball change them? I mean, because the public already knows what happened with baseball, so they're already ticked. Even if Manfred comes out and says we're going to play 50 games, like the public knows, the laundry has been aired very publicly, and does the fact that they come out and play make fans feel a little bit better and say, okay, I'll go watch in 2021 because they were basically forced to play in 2020?
I think that the fans will be a little more receptive to come out in 2021 if Manfred is able to sit back and say, hey, look, we're gonna have a shortened season. If it's a 60-game season, I think it all is forgiven. Honestly, I do. I think that there will still be a lot of anger, but at the end of the day, I think the fans, the hardcore fans, will come out and they'll support a 60-game season. I'm not so sure the fans are going to come out in full force to support a 50-game season or anything less than 50 games. I think if you're at 60, that's probably at the bare minimum. For me personally, if you go 60 games, that is the bare minimum that I can accept and say, okay, under the circumstances, I'm good with this. I mean, we should have had more, but under the circumstances, I'm good with this. Anything less than 60, I'm not good with this season at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll watch it, but I'm not good with this season at all.
And I get where you're coming from when you say that you won't attend games, and I guess it's a little bit different for me because I'm a fan of a team that isn't local, so I can't just go to Cleveland and see a game whenever I want. But I can't just shut off that fan of the team. So, like, I can't say, like, if they don't play baseball this year, I'm just going to turn off my fandom of the Royals and not go to Royals games when I go to Kansas City in the summer and stuff like that. I just can't do it. If they play baseball in 2021, then I'm going to be all for it no matter what happens because I'm a fan. I can't just turn off being a fan. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you're a hardcore fan like I am,
yeah.
and that's fine. I mean, look, I didn't say that I wasn't going to watch it on TV.
Right.
I didn't say that I wasn't going to listen to it on the radio. I mean, I will. I just won't attend a game because I'm pissed at them. Mm-hmm. I just am. Look, I didn't attend a game in Buffalo to see the Bills for a lot of years because I was pissed at the organization that they stopped caring about winning. That they had a god-awful product, and I wasn't going to waste my money or waste 3.5 hours worth of car life up and back to go watch a game in Orchard Park, New York, because product sucks. Now that the Bills are good, okay, it's worth me going up 3 hours to watch multiple games if I'm allowed to this year. Now, if fans aren't allowed, I'll probably invest, as long as I have the money, I'll probably invest in the Sunday ticket and get all my Bills games. Or I will go over to
your cousin's house.
Yeah,
No.
because it's on me
Right.
to get the NFL Sunday ticket because I'm the guy paying the bill. If not, then I'll go over to our good friends in Wedgwood.
All right.
And I'll watch the game from there.
Yeah, I watched every Chiefs game this year at Riser.
Yeah,
Tavern.
I'll go to
in
JR's
Bournemouth,
pub and I'll watch the Bills every week if I don't have the funds to watch the Bills in my own comfort of my own home.
Yeah, but back to probably because I'm so far away, I don't think I could ever be angry enough to not take advantage and go to the Kauffman Stadium game once a year that I get to go to in the summer when I go down to Kansas City. So I get it because the Cleveland fans are gonna. You're right there. You can go to a Cleveland game basically any night of the week and just be like, I'm going to go to Cleveland.
Yeah.
But I think when you're a fan of an out-of-market team and you get to go to a game maybe once a year in a normal state, I don't think I could ever be angry enough to say I'm not going to go to that game that I get to go to when I go down to Kansas City.
And you're a hardcore baseball fan, and you're the person that baseball is assuming will come back. And I don't want baseball to assume anything. I don't want baseball to sit here and take advantage of the hardcore fans like you and me and the other folks that love baseball. I don't want Major League Baseball to take advantage of us. And I feel like Major League Baseball, in their stupidity, is taking advantage of the hardcore fan. They're assuming, hey, you guys are going to be coming back. We don't have to worry about anything going wrong because, everything will be fine. You better not play that assumption game because...
Well, what they're going to run into is the hardcore fans aren't enough to sustain you, especially in baseball when the popularity is dropping.
Exactly. You got to do a little bit more than just the hardcore fan. You better be a lot more in tune. And unfortunately, baseball isn't right now, and that is a big problem. But like I said, I don't see Major League Baseball whiffing, no pun intended, on this season. I think in the next week, Manfred will step up to the podium and say, hey, we're going to have a 60-game season, and spring training will start around June 27th, and the season will start on July the 20th. We'll play 60 games in 70 days. Have the season end on September 27th. Have the 8-team field and have 1 versus 8, 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, 5, best of 3, and then a best of 5 and a best of 7 and a World Series best of 7, and then we're done. I think that's what'll happen.
That would be the rational and simple way, but baseball has proven that they're not always prone to the rational and simple way.
And I just the more I look at Manfred, the more I look, and he's the mouthpiece for the owners. The more I see guys that just don't like the game. If you don't like the game, get out.
Right.
I don't understand why you own a baseball team if you don't like the sport. I mean, I understand you're making money, and let's be honest, all owners make money. And if that's the only reason, well, I get it financially, but my Lord, if you don't like the game, why be an owner other than the money factor?
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense. All right, we'll take a timeout. Be back with more.
You can make money in a lot of other ventures. That
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely you can. I just stay away from the game if you don't like it. If you're not a fan of the game, and this goes for Manfred, this goes for an owner, this goes for a player rep, this goes for management, this goes for a player, this goes for an agent. I mean, if you don't like the game of baseball, then get the hell out.
Right.
All right, back in a bit. It's a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com.
They say American craftsmanship is making a comeback. Of course, at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, it never went away.
People are floored by Baird Brothers' authentic hardwood floors. They stare at our stairs and adore our doors. Baird Brothers reflects 3 generations of family craftsmanship. Visit our huge in-stock selection in person or at BairdBrothers.com.
Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is here, so it's all hands on deck to make sure your plan still meets your needs for 2020.
Call us today.
It is a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hardwig. Mike McKenzie has dropped by. Mike will be providing the play-by-play on Scene Park Field 2 tonight. Little B-League action. And Mike, what is on tap for you tonight?
All right, so we got 2 games tonight. Me, myself, and Anthony Hartwig will be calling the games on Field 2. Creekside playing in both of those games. They were not able to pick up their first win in their first game of the season. They fell short of the Prospects 5-3 on Sunday. This is their first year as a franchise in Class B. In fact, only one of the 3 teams Anthony and I have tonight were in the Class B where they were a Class B franchise last season. That is CSA. They finished 2-16 in 6th place in the 14U division. There's actually 4 new franchises in 14U. We have the chance to call Creekside twice and the Avalanche once tonight.
All right, so you got 14U baseball on Field 2.
Yes.
All right, cool. So Creekside is playing who in these 2 games?
The first game, they're going to have CSA, who fell short of Avalanche 13-0 in their first game, and then the Avalanche will be in the second game, who, as I just mentioned, beat CSA 13-0 this past Sunday.
So this will be games 2 and 3 for Creekside?
Yes, games 2 and 3 for Creekside.
Yeah, fantastic. And look, I mean, it's all kinds of fun to broadcast the games at Scene and just to see 14, 16, and 18U baseball. Being that we lost high school baseball this spring, it's so good to have the sport back.
It really is, and especially with the stuff that's been going on in the MLB, and I know you are very outspoken. You don't like what's going on. I think both sides are definitely to blame, but the owners need to give a little more of those prorated salaries, maybe up to upwards of 85%. But yeah, it's nice to have this Class B baseball being broadcast so that, us baseball fans have something to look forward to with the sport.
14U, when you look at 14-year-old kids and they're swinging the bat as hard as they do, it's amazing what you see in 14U baseball. As an umpire, part of me is scared to death that I'm going to get drilled by a baseball because the ball can come back pretty quickly.
Oh yeah.
But it's the talent is not so much on the mound, but the talent on the field and at the plate when the pitch is in the strike zone. There's an awful lot of kids that know what they're doing.
It really is, and when you look at 14-year-old kids, you don't think that they're going to be swinging the bat so hard. You don't think that there's going to be so much talent on the field. It's almost looking like you're watching 16U or 18U in terms of in the field, infield, outfield, and at the plate. And really, it's fun to watch 14-year-old kids play Class B baseball because it's a lot better than what you would expect with most 14-year-olds playing the sport.
Yeah, it's definitely an awful lot of fun. And again, we love broadcasting all 3 leagues, and kudos to the B-League for expanding a few years back to have 14U. Now we have Little B, 16U, and, of course, the big boys, 18U. And, by the way, if you're 14 and you can cut the mustard and play 18U baseball, you're on the 18U team. Doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you have the ability to play in 18U, if you have the talent, I would definitely put them in 18U. That's why I like Class B.
Should be an awful lot of fun at Scene, field number 2. You've already announced a couple of games.
Yes, I did. I got the opportunity to call the 16U start of the season earlier on Sunday. The first game, I believe it was Nightline taking on the Avalanche. I think Nightline ended up winning that game behind a strong outing from Jake Corral. He went all 7 innings. He's a very great kid. Watch out for him in 16U the rest of the season.
He played really well last night for Nightline in their victory over Whiting. We talked a little bit about this with Don Pletcher when we had the B-League Focus, and that's going to be a standard every Wednesday at 12:15. Someone from Class B baseball will be calling in, and we'll talk about the league in general. One of the things that has stuck out to me early in the season, be it as an umpire or as a broadcaster, is the lack of urgency or the lack of quickness going on the field and coming off the field. I hope that is something that is going to be addressed.
I hope it is too. I mean, you have a full 9-inning possibility of the game, and the umpires, they're stopping this game middle of the top of the 7th inning. That happened twice with both of my games, with both the Astro Falcons and the Roth brothers. That was the second game I was able to call. The Astro Falcons won that one 6-0. But yeah, they're calling the games with 2 outs in the top of the 7th or the bottom of the 7th because it's not really a sense of urgency, as you mentioned, Ron. There's no sense of quickness, like let's get this going, get off the field, get on the field, get off the field quick. That's really not evident in the first few games.
Yeah, and one of the other things that, it's going to happen because it's human nature. If you have the lead, let's face it, a couple of players are going to mysteriously go to the mound and say, hey, we want to waste some time here, but we're going to talk some strategy. The catcher and the pitcher will have a little conversation to strategize. Look, it's the baseball version of Four Corners, and everyone knows it. Unfortunately, not much you can do about that.
Yeah, and baseball is the one sport where it does matter time-wise between high scoring and low scoring. You got a 1-0 game, you're going to breeze by. But if you got a 13-12 game, you're probably going only 5 innings with a 2-hour time limit, as opposed to football, whether you're scoring 50 points or 20, you're going to fit it in about a 2-hour time limit.
And that's the beautiful part of baseball, the fact that it doesn't have a time limit, and you're dictated by the amount of outs in an inning. So you can do whatever you want to, just don't make the third out. Otherwise, your inning is over. So it just the fact that there is no time constraint in a normal game, that's what makes this a little bit different. But I think that everyone will adjust at some point.
Yeah, they will. And with the whole coronavirus thing going on, things are changing. So baseball, the players and the fans, we have to realize that, with this 2-hour time limit, games are going to start to speed up. There is that time limit. You do have to kind of look at your clock instead of just the game clock. There's no game clock because that's what the great part is about baseball. You got to look at the time. You start at 5:45 and it's 7:30. We got to get this thing going because we got 15 minutes. Game's over.
You've talked about the early part of the season, some of the players that you've been impressed with. You threw out Coral's name, who did a nice job last night for Nightline, playing at first base. Had a nice offensive night last night in their victory over Whiting. Who are some of the other kids that you've been impressed with this year?
Another pitcher, the Astro Falcons, Jake Griddick. He went 3 2/3, only gave up 4 hits, threw a shutout. He was pretty good on the mound for the Astro Falcons. And their shortstop, kid's first name's Anthony. I think he collected about 3 or 4 RBI in that game, had a bases clearing double into the left center field gap. He was definitely a threat at the plate for the Astro Falcons.
Should be an awful lot of fun tonight. You guys are on field number 2. It doesn't have the ginormous press box, but that's okay.
It doesn't.
You got a nice little building that you guys can put your gear in, and hey, it's a cozy place to call a game.
Yeah, we got our little shed ready to go.
I like that.
Just give me this stuff, give me a headset, and I'm ready to go. Let's call some baseball.
Now, it's not like Field 3 where you essentially have to go into the stands and call a game. But
Field 3 is not so luxurious.
Yeah, well, I mean, on a rainy day, not so much.
No.
Yeah, I don't want any part of that. But Field 1 has the press box. Field 2 has where the official score would normally be, but plenty of room to set up shop, do a game, and have some fun along the way.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't wait to see Creekside. We get to see them twice. CSA, let's hope they can pick up their first one of the season as well. And the Avalanche, I mean, they performed very well, winning 13-0. Can't wait to see all 3 of these teams on the field tonight.
Yeah, it should be an awful lot of fun. And again, 14U will be dominating tonight's broadcast from Field 2. Field 1, I believe, has 16 and 18U tonight.
So I actually have the schedule.
There you go.
Here. So this is for 14U. There is 2 games on Field 1 tonight. It's A2Z Athletics versus the Roth Brothers at 6, and then the Prospects taking on the Astro Falcons at 8:30 on Field 1 on this Wednesday night.
Okay.
Those will be DJ will have those on scene.
Yes, he will.
So it's 14U night at the Ball Yard tonight.
Yes, he is.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. as the 14U kids will take care of business. A to Z Athletics, I saw them play. I was umpiring a game. They looked solid.
Yeah, if I'm not, they finished second with an 18-7-1 record last year. I mean, they're a team that's definitely going to be a reckoned with throughout the entire season.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun to watch last year. I think I umpired a number of their games. They were an awful lot of fun to watch, and good talent in a number of those teams. Yeah. It's an awful lot of fun to watch the pipeline of some of the teams that, 18U, Creekside is good. Obviously, the Astro Falcons are the gold standard. Their pipeline, their 16U, their 14U teams, solid.
Yep, 14U finished 23-1 and 2 ties last season in 14U. So you got 14U, 16U, although they did finish tied for 5th. They won their first game 6-0. They're looking like they could have a season where they finish top of the standings. And then 18U, the Astro Falcons, you said it, they're the gold standard. They're the team that everybody looks up to. They want to be the Astro Falcons.
And they had a pretty good scare on Monday night because Creekside took them the distance. It was 3-2. So, Astro Falcons, it was nice to see them be able to win a close game and pull out the tight competitive ones.
Yeah, I mean, you love seeing these top-tier teams play some of these, like the A2Z Athletics or Eagleware, some of these teams that aren't really known for being top of the line. You like seeing it from all the way 14U Class B up to the major leagues. You love seeing these tight, competitive games, no matter if it's the Astro Falcons and A2Z Athletics or it's Whitting and CSA. It doesn't matter. If it's a close game, Anthony, you are going to love to watch it.
Yeah.
We can get a couple tonight.
Yeah, and the one thing that, everyone wanted the NABF World Series to come into town, and historically we had the 14U and the 18U NABF World Series, and Scene Park was a madhouse when we had the NABF World Series. Well, it's not going to happen this year. You're not going to have the Palomino. COVID-19 kicked all that to the curb. I like the fact that every regular season game is going to be must-see. That every regular season game, there's going to be that unannounced pressure that you're going to have to win this game because top 6 teams go to the playoffs, and if you finish 7th, sorry about your luck, and you want to have high seeding. So, you definitely only have 18 games to get your stuff together. There's a sense of urgency with these 18 games. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's the spotlight that is usually on the major leagues. It might be on Akron a few nights for the Rubber Ducks, but now it turns to these kids in Class B. It's what every kid dreams of, and now these kids that are playing at Bob Scene Park every night, they've got the opportunity, they've got the spotlight on them, so now there's a little bit of extra pressure there for these kids. But yeah, you love seeing the spotlight on some of these younger talents here in Class B, some local kids watching playing ball.
14U night at the Ball Yard tonight, and we'll have a couple of games from Field 1, a couple of games from Field 2. I know Thursday night is going to rock. I'll be in Field 1, and that should be an awful lot of fun. It's great to see the kids back doing baseball. It's can't beat it.
I mean, it's the best sport out there.
No doubt.
My humble opinion.
No doubt. Hey, good seeing you.
Thanks
You're heading out to the park?
Mike, before you go, today's National Mascot Day. Who's
there you go.
Who's your favorite mascot?
Oh, from any sport?
Any sport, any level.
Oh, man, this is a tough one. As a Pirates fan, I'm going to have to go with the Pirate Parrot.
All right.
Huge bias homer pick right there.
All right, Parrot is cool.
Love the Parrot.
Yeah, the Parrot is cool.
Love the Parrot.
The Philly Fanatic is locally
a character.
Yeah, locally, Pete the Penguin, the Hubbard Eagle mascot, a couple other mascots are pretty solid, but
the Rubber Duck.
Yeah, that's the Rubber Duck. Yeah,
Rubber Duck.
What is the name of that mascot in Akron?
We'll have to get our research.
When I was in Altoona,
I need to know.
When I was in Altoona, they had a mascot named Al Tuna. I was just like, huh? Okay, well, all right, whatever.
I was telling Ron earlier, there's a high school in Georgia named Cairo High School. Their mascot is the syrup makers.
The syrup makers.
There you go.
Hey, whatever works.
Hey, whatever works. That's it. All right, B-League action tonight on YSNLive.com from Field 1 and Field 2, and man, we're all over B-League this year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Spotlight's on these
And
kids.
you're wearing the gear. I'm proud of you.
Wearing the gear.
Rocking the shield.
Repping it all the time.
You're rocking the shield. I like
Yes,
it.
I am.
Mike McKenzie, have a call a good game.
All right,
2
I
games
will.
in your case tonight.
2 games, Anthony and myself. Hope we get a couple good games with Creekside.
There you go. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
All right, see you, man.
See ya.
All right, 330-886-0813. We'll take a final timeout and close up shop. It is a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com.
Hey, my Ohio friends, it's Mike Ditka, and I know great talent and heart when I see it. I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are average real estate agents, then there are true champions. Kelly Warren is one of those champions, and you have her right there in your own backyard. Kelly outmarkets and outsells every agent in the Mahoning Valley. If Kelly can't sell your home at a price and deadline you agree to, Kelly will buy it. Get your home sold. Call Kelly Warren today at 717-2689 or go online to kellysold.com and start packing.
You can feel it. Baird Brothers' traditional craftsmanship. You can see it. Baird Brothers' timeless style. And you can afford it. And find everything at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is real hardwood, yet beautifully affordable. Floors, moldings, interior doors, bar rails, and stair parts. All within your means and without a care. Start at BairdBrothers.com. You have made it. Your home. Teams work hard and give it all they've got. Well, so does ours, because 21 Sports and YSN give you extra effort when covering local sports. 21 Sports and YSN, winning coverage of our Valley's teams.
Welcome back to a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hartwig. Number to call, 330-886-0813. That's 330-886-0813. It is National Mascot Day. We've been giving props to our local mascots and some of our favorite mascots. We also were talking with Don Pletcher, and again, a feature that we will have every Wednesday during the B-League season, our B-League Spotlight every Wednesday at 12:15. And, of course, many thanks to Brian Tolnar, the director of golf at Mill Creek. And, again, if you are looking to play golf on Father's Day or Father's Day weekend, it is incumbent on you to call Mill Creek or go online to get your tee time, because they are running out of spots for this weekend.
Really quick.
Yeah, that's a golf course that's if the weather is good, you better call ahead, because if you don't, you're not going to be playing golf at Mill Creek, and that is a gorgeous course to and a challenging course as well. 36 holes, and then they have the par 3 9-hole golf course.
It's diabolical to use.
It is diabolical. Yes, it is. It's unfair where they put some of the holes. The pin location is unfair at times. So it's just great course. Great course, whether you golf on the north side or the south side. It is 2 very, very difficult and fun 18-hole golf courses, whether it's the north or the south course. Mill Creek is a fantastic place to golf, and everything seems to be in high gear out at Mill Creek, and we always have fun getting Brian on to preview the upcoming PGA tournament event, and more importantly, the tips that he gives.
Yes.
Because, I've yet to golf since he gave his tips.
Right, so now you have 2.
So
Yeah,
now I have 2.
chipping.
I have putting and I have chipping, and I feel like now my game is going to be very much improved around the green.
You're going to be sitting there with the notes on your hand like, okay, here we go. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like, all right, sandwich, feet together, a little bit to the left, and have the ball about an inch from the right foot. Okay, here we go. And then just have the nice little follow through and see if I can get some backspin on the ball. Oh, yeah, I want to see this. I want to see if I can do this.
We'll have to get a segment where Brian gives you the tips live on the golf course, and he can run them through you. We'll have to have that be like a running point segment.
That would entail someone with a camera following me around a golf course.
Just not following you around. It just has to be at one hole. Brian will go through a tip, and you'll be his dummy.
I'm a golf dummy, all right.
Right.
Trust me on that one. I'm a golf dummy.
You'll be the clay that he gets to mold.
Well, it's good luck trying to mold this clay. Like I said, my golf handicap is my game. That's my handicap. That and my clubs, they're my handicap. Oh God, I'm terrible at this game. Horrible. Absolutely dreadful. But it is what it is. I have fun with it. Yeah. So
that's all
that matters. That's all that matters. All right, coming up on Friday, it'll be a phone-in Friday edition of Running Points. Anything that is on your mind, we can most definitely talk about what is going on locally. We'll have more games to break down because I'll have 2 more B-League games to break down, and we'll have some fun with that. We'll also, we'll be a lot closer to maybe a decision by Major League Baseball. Fingers crossed. I'm getting tired of even talking about it, to be honest with you. We'll have 1 round in the RBC Heritage from Hilton Head.
Hopefully that my first round goes a little bit better than last week.
Well, I feel like DeChambeau is going to come into this studio and
he might
give me
the El Kabong if he doesn't do well.
Yeah, I don't blame you for picking Bryson because hell, he had a fantastic weekend in Fort Worth, and I think that he is one of the favorites in this tournament. Absolutely, I do.
Well, Webb was one of the favorites last weekend. We all saw how that went. So the Anthony Hartwig curse might be alive and well.
Well, you're a golf curse. At least for one weekend.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're the baseball curse.
We'll find out just how deep your golf curse is if DeChambeau kills himself on the course for the first 2 rounds of the RBC Heritage. Because if that's the case, then I'm gonna really want you to start hyping up the golfers that I don't like.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that will be something that I will want to see.
We have some breaking news.
Breaking news. All right, hold on a second. Dun, 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 dun.
I don't think we have the copyright to that, Ron.
Whatever.
We'll dock it out of your pay.
Yeah, okay.
From the sounds of it, it sounds like the Players Union is starting to work towards an agreement with Major League Baseball to play some baseball.
That's interesting because
I wonder who got into the ear of Tony Clark.
Earlier this week, they said the communications are done. And now they're coming out with another offer.
Now, this could be completely off the cuff, but I'm seeing it on Twitter, and I just saw it on my Facebook timeline. So this might be the ultimate gaffe, or we might be having some movement. So exciting nonetheless. Somebody might be bored out of their mind and creating stuff, but it looks like there's more than one source that's citing it. So.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, obviously, John Heyman is breaking this. MLB and the Players Union are closing in on an agreement to play the 2020 season via the Players. Deal is expected to be for prorated pay and include expanded playoffs. So the owners blinked. If this story is true and they're willing now to give the players 100%, the owners just blinked.
Well, it's what, the 16th? 17th?
Yeah.
So you know what they say about the 1st and the 15th? You always look at your bank account, right?
Well, my bank account is overdrawn, but that's neither here nor there.
So sponsors available for the Bethesda show.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that might be helpful. Anyone that wants to sponsor.
But you look at it, and the owners are losing more money than the players. I mean, naturally.
Yeah,
that's
of
how
course.
it works.
Yeah.
Dollar for dollar. But the players sitting there thinking, okay, and you called it, the first one that blinks is going to lose. The first one that speaks is going to lose. And I think the owner said, we lost. We lost. Because there's a lot more that the players can do. Can you imagine if they decided to go play elsewhere? Like just start their own thing and play?
It wouldn't surprise me because you can do that.
So I think that Trevor Bauer has something to do with a lot of this because he's very outspoken. Another good follow on Twitter, but if you look at what he did, he basically called out Rob Manfred, and all of a sudden stuff starts to get done.
Right.
So every organization, every league, every players union needs a guy like Trevor Bauer to do that. I know you're not a big fan, but he might be the reason that we have baseball this year.
He is someone that is an interesting follow on Twitter. He has great opinions, and they're his opinions. And you can argue with some of his opinions, some of which are way out in never land, which is beyond stupid. But most of the time, he brings some great content to the table. And I saw when he aired out Rob Manfred, and I'm like, ooh. The student is airing out the principal. This is really going to be interesting to see what happens here.
Some have compared Trevor Bauer to the Ron Potesta of Major League Baseball.
Ooh.
Interesting follow on Twitter.
He didn't call Rob Manfred a dummy like I did last night, so there you go. I believe my exact term was, when you look up the term dummy in the dictionary, Rob Manfred's mug is posted next to the word. And look, I mean, and he's a mouthpiece for the owners. And he's
not a dumb. He's a smart guy.
He is,
but he is just an arrogant. He's an arrogant dick, is what he is. Because for him to come out and say what he said, and be so confident on the night of the draft, with all those young, talented players about to have their names projected, and then all of a sudden, whoa, I'm not so confident. Okay.
You want to play the owner's game, then you're going to wind up getting egg on your face. Look, at the end of the day, if this comes about, the owners can still come up with a win on this. Because they can sit back and say, we extended an olive branch to the players. We want to be chummy with the players. We want everything to be copacetic in 2021. We are showing an example that we can be very faithful in our bargaining.
Who loses in this?
Now I look at this and say, okay, that's a great way to spin this, but you got your ass kicked and the players won.
Listen,
but it's a good way to spin it.
This is a screen door. I mean, you see right through it.
Of course.
I mean, there's nobody that doesn't say, okay, the owners are losing more money and money by the hour, and the players are losing money by every 2 weeks, every game check.
Yes.
Right? So who's eventually going to blink or flinch? It's going to be the owners, because they're getting pressure from the players. They're getting pressure from the media. They're getting pressure from the fans. They're getting pressure from the people that work for them, the sponsors. There's so many different directions that the owners are getting pressure from. And then you start thinking, will these sponsors come back? Will these will the players will come back eventually. But everybody else is a question mark.
Exactly.
And when you start losing money and there's no guarantee that you're going to get it back, that's when you start wondering, okay, at what point do you have to take a knee on this and go, okay, we concede to you? But you're right. They're going to extend the olive branch and say, you know what? You guys were right. Here it is.
Here's your olive branch. Yeah.
Prorated.
Yeah.
Bull crap.
Yeah.
And the players are smart. They're smarter now than ever, especially with their money, especially with seeing things. There's thinkers in baseball. The way that other sports, there's not necessarily thinkers. They make people do that for them.
And if the Players Association is smart, they are not going to tap dance over the grave of the owners on this. They're just going to say, you know what? We appreciate the olive branch. We're very grateful that the owners have decided to do this, I don't want to see any celebration. Because if you're celebrating, now you've become an even bigger part of this problem.
I think the celebration you're going to see is going to be twofold. It's going to be, yes, we're celebrating the victory, but also we're celebrating that we're coming back and playing baseball. Because
that's what you should be celebrating.
But it's going to look the same. You know what I mean? It's going to be camouflage.
I don't want anybody Cadillacing, pointing at the owners and saying, "Ha ha ha, we just nailed you," because now you're going to look like an idiot.
You're going to have one-offs like Blake Snell.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's going to do it this time, but he was one of the main reasons.
And boy, he got shouted down in a hurry.
Yeah, so there's going to be one-offs, but there might not be, because the players' union might say, "Hey, keep your mouth shut. This is an opportunity for us to leverage what we're doing next year."
Assuming that everything goes good. Look, it's June the 17th. All right. I wrote this out. 60 games, 70 days. You're going to have 10 days off. Assuming 3 weeks of spring training. You would have the announcement on June the 23rd, which is 6 days from now. The season would start July the 20th. You'd have spring training June 27th through July the 18th. Season starts July the 20th. It ends September 27th. 70 days, 60 games. You have 10 days off. Mother Nature and other reasons. I think 60 games is very doable right now. To do 70, I don't know if you can squeeze 70 games in right now.
Don't care. I don't care if they play 10 games. I don't care if they play 60, 70. Play. Just play.
Yeah.
Just play baseball. Because
I want to see at least 60.
Who cares, Ron?
If it's under 60, I'm going to be like.
But there's somebody that says if it's under 100.
This?
There's somebody that says if we don't play.
I get that, but
like, there's no magic number where you go, well, if they, like, just play baseball. You know what I mean? Like, this is a year that everybody wants to forget, but everybody will remember.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end of the day, you just have to try to get back to normalcy. This is an argument that should take place in 7 months, right? Where the players and the owners are going back and forth and they're butting heads. They just jumped the gun on this is all they did. That's all they did. Just go back and play baseball. I don't care if you play one and then, like, because what happens if COVID strikes again? You know what I mean? What happens if it spikes again? You're seeing stuff now on Facebook and Twitter and social media that it's starting to spike. Restaurants, a couple restaurants have closed again. You're seeing, you alluded to it in the NFL, players in the NFL, the WWE, which just resumed taping again, which is a good thing. What do you do if that hits? Just play right now and deal with it as it comes. You know what I mean? We're so focused on, well, what if this happens? Well, what if it doesn't? What if it does? Just go out and play, do your job, and then worry about it when it happens. That's the end of it.
I'm just glad that there is a better than average chance now. According to John Heyman, there's a better than average chance now that Major League Baseball and the Players Union are going to get an agreement here.
Rob Manfred looks like a complete douche now. A complete douche. Because he was wrong the first time, and then when he realized he was wrong, he tried to correct it. And it's almost like when you know you're going to wreck, and you overcorrect the wheel.
You overcompensate. You flip the damn car over 5 times.
And that's what he did. And I think Major League Baseball did what Major League Baseball needed to do and just said, let him be the douche. We're going to figure out how to make this work. And they did. And they're doing it, I should say. They haven't done it yet.
About an hour ago, it was announced that Rob Manfred and Players Union Chief Tony Clark had what was called a productive meeting face-to-face in Arizona. That meeting was called at the request of Rob Manfred. So I think Rob Manfred understands.
I want to punch him in the face.
I hate it. I really screwed up here. Maybe I can come together. By the way, then on all of this, according to John Heyman, and we're 1 minute into overtime, but as John Heyman, who I trust, is one of the few baseball guys that I actually trust. John Parado is another one, and maybe we'll get him on Friday because I love his work, and we have a good friendship with him. John Heyman tweeted out, as part of the pending agreement to play the 2020 season between MLB and the Players Union, the union has agreed to waive any grievance.
Good news.
That is real good news. So, yeah, perhaps we are going to get Major League Baseball because it certainly sounds like if the union's looking to waive any grievances, this sounds to me like we're going to have baseball.
Any baseball is good baseball.
Yeah, that's a great way to end this Wednesday edition. So there you go. We'll hopefully get John Parado's view on this on Friday. It's also phone-in Friday. And maybe a couple of days from now, we're going to actually announce Major League Baseball is coming back. Woohoo! And we'll also be talking B-League Baseball as well. That's all coming up on a phone-in Friday edition of Running Point. Thanks for our guests. Don Pletcher in our B-League Spotlight every Wednesday at 12:15. Brian Tolnar, the Director of Golf at Mill Creek, previewing the RBC Heritage at Hilton Head. For Anthony, Ron Potesta bidding you a very pleasant good afternoon. We'll talk to you